Oh, finally you show up.
Oh, that time you do what you're supposed to. Okay.
Is it because of the semicolon?
I guess so. Craig has an eye for detail, and if you don't tell him exactly the way you want it, he just fucks it all up.
I see.
Garbage in, garbage out, Craig. UF. I don't even. What are we even doing here? Renowned everybody. Welcome to the Total War Warhammer Fantasy Podcast. Joining me, as always, is Archer King.
The fat.
His immensity, Archer King, I should say. And I am don't call it a comeback, Trusty Pax. And I've been here for years. So we're here today to talk about Grom the Paunch. The biggest gobbo that ever was. And I've been really excited to do this one for a while.
Yeah, you want to do it first when the DLC dropped.
Yeah. Even when the greenskins were the redheaded stepchild of the Warhammer roster, which now there are others who have taken up that spot. Mm-hmm. I always had a soft spot for the greenskins. There's something about the duality of Gork and Mork. I love the simplicity. Christianity has the Trinity, Gork and Mork. It's it's the dyad. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but
I don't.
It's the trashy Disney Star Wars films. What is it? They came up with it in the last movie where Rey and Edgy Boy are like, they're the dyad in the Force. That explains why they are so powerful. Anyway, Gork and Mork are the dyad of the Greenskin tribe. And there's something about orcs. We mentioned it before. Orcs are always looking for a good scrap. They just love to fight. And there's something very... How does the saying go for Gork and Mork? Was it cunningly brutal or brutally cunning? I think that's and I'm not sure what the orcs are. Cunningly brutal, or no, that might be Mork. See, this is the best thing about their religion.
Exactly, it's so deep.
It's so deep. It's like the Ouroboros. It just feeds onto itself or into itself. You gotta be all juiced up on mushrooms, and I don't know.
To understand it.
Yes. I personally hope I get, chewed up by Gork and spit out by Mork when I die. So you got orcs who are like the warrior caste. You got the gobbos, or goblins. I don't know why I say gobbos all the time.
Because it's a better use.
It's more common parlance,
Yeah, you can only play this game so many times and hear like we as gobbos like every 10 minutes and not refer to them.
We's gobbos.
Yeah.
I love that. So the orcs are kind of like the Spartans of the greenskins. I guess that's a way of putting it. They're not high on intelligence.
Or discipline.
Or discipline. No, not really either. But they do love a fight. They're quick to get into a fight and quick to run. But the goblins, they're like little psychopathic children. I don't know how else to describe them. Whereas the orcs, if you're wandering around and you're like your soldier, maybe with a group of people and you're armed to the teeth, they're gonna want a piece of you. They want to see what you're made out of. Whereas if you're say you're injured, you're lying on the side of the road, you're sick, you're just been robbed, orcs come by, they're just gonna look at you. Or they might not even see you. They're just going to keep on walking because they literally they care about the fight more than the loot, I would say. So
was that Ulthaun's campaign or Alberic's where we were talking about that?
I think it was Alberic's.
I think so, yeah. Because we briefly touched on Grom last time, but I didn't. I remember you mentioning that and being like, "Oh, that's really interesting."
Yeah, see, that's why I have the they're not so distasteful, I guess, because it's like the stronger you are, kind of like Eltharion going into the Badlands, the stronger you become, the more resistance you meet. Just the way they are. Whereas their little relatives, the goblins, they're evil.
They're like stabbing.
When I get there, I'm gonna stab. Everything about them just screams. They're just sociopaths, psychopaths. There's no redeeming qualities about them other than they're
voice
brutal. They're brutally cunning. I would argue I'd fall on that side of the fence.
Yeah,
they're way smaller, compared to the orcs, and so they have to rely more on numbers and definitely some level of they're the ones who really build siege weapons, since they don't have the physical size. They have to make up for it in other ways. And then beneath them, you got the snotlings, which now that we get the pump wagons, we get to see the little snotling guys. They're actually smaller than even the gobos.
Yeah.
And they're so small and so pretty much you would not even be concerned about encountering a snotling in the wild. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it, like maybe less than a foot tall or a foot tall.
Yeah, like game-wise, it's kind of hard to tell, but yeah.
They're little, totally not threatening. They'd probably flee in terror from just a normal human. But orcs, or their regular sized greenskins, they like to keep them as pets. And also, I found out that if you get enough of them together, instinctually they know how to build these pump wagons. I guess when the Wa is called and there's that Wa magical energy in the air, they just inborn into them. They just start slapping shit together, boards and wheels, and until they get these pump wagons.
Something drivable.
Yeah. They're pre-programmed in a way. I don't know how else to describe it. But Grom the Paunch, like why I've been so excited. I love the goblins. They're unredeemingly evil. And I like the limitation, like where you're not relying on brawn, you're relying more on maybe strategy.
Subterfuge to some level.
Yeah. I ended up using a lot of agents. I feel like you have to keep track of your enemy. I like to block their armies, knock down their walls. I never, as a goblin, if I were a goblin, you never want to be in a fair fight ever. Don't back me into a corner I have to stab my way out of. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel like using agents is pretty necessary in this one, just because like using underweight can get really bad really quick if you're not paying attention. Like I lost more than one army being kind of an idiot, and I ended up playing 2 campaigns because I just had never played as the greenskins much, besides like a couple turns as Wurzag a long time ago, and I was like, wow, greenskins suck. But now that they're better now, and now that we're covering it, yeah, it's a little bit it's a lot more fun for sure. Like, it's playable for me now.
It really is. The only thing that made it playable for me was I liked the flavor of them, as you were saying. Yeah. It puts a smile on my face every time I hear Grom talking about how big he is.
My favorite was the cooking mini game.
That was so much better than what Eltharion had.
Yeah.
So much better. Grom was definitely the main event, I would say, of this DLC. Although Imrik, I'm excited for Imrik, but let's real quick, I wanted to say we have a comment that we'll read next in the next 2 weeks. Let me get their name really quick. I want to give them a shout out. I don't know how to pronounce your name. It looks a little French to me. Shin Aurel Gaudreau. God damn it. Why do you got to do this to me? Thanks for the comment about Imrik. I don't want to read it now. Let's see. Yeah, I don't. It's a little bit of comment. We went a little back and forth, but yeah, we'll talk about your comment next episode when we play as Imrik, because it's more related to that. But thank you for that.
Yeah, much appreciated.
Yes. So Grom, let's start off with his background a little bit before we get into the race attributes and all the good stuff.
His background or his front side?
His well, he hasn't seen it. He hasn't seen his front side for the past decades. He's only seen his past decades. I would think it's been a long time since he's seen his backside or his legs.
That was
just the
my favorite thing. He couldn't see his legs after the first day, and then he just had people look at his legs for him.
Are they still there?
Genius.
All right. So Grom is definitely the biggest goblin of them all. He is not an orc. Don't be confused about his size. he once was a little tiny gobbo from the Broken Axe tribe. And at some point, they killed a troll. And instead of cooking the troll meat, he just decided to eat the troll meat raw, which trolls have natural regenerative properties. So when he ate that troll meat, it started the great Battle of the Belly was where it all began. And you know you're a badass when your first known historical battle is literally just between you and your gut.
It was just your gut and what you put in there.
It's basically every night. If I combined every night of Taco Bell I've ever had in my life, except as you're trying to get rid of that meat stuff, it's just that the tacos are trying to reassemble themselves as they're moving through your intestines. And that's kind of what was going on with Grom.
The ultimate meat sweats.
Yeah, the meat sweats. I'm not even gonna dig deeper. Meat sweat, or like meat and sweat are two words that should not be combined into one. so a lesser orc, pretty much any other creature that would eat raw troll meat would probably just explode. But Grom, he triumphed, and he just started swelling up like a friggin' balloon to the size he is now. And that was the last time he ever saw his legs. He, as Archer was saying, he only knows they're still there because of his good little buddy Niblet. How can we not mention Niblet, the Night Goblin?
It's pretty important.
Yeah. So when Grom, so it started with the Battle of the Belly when he got swole. Some other Gobbo tribes came to him, and they were having problems with some other orc tribe. You know, there's a bunch of them all over the place.
Greenskins do what they do.
Yeah, greenskins are always fighting each other. You know, they're always arguing about who's the biggest, who's the girthiest. So he went and fought this guy called Zoc Gutstabber, and when this was kind of like his first moment of I would say renown, kind of that first tick in the history book, other than the Battle of the Belly. Yeah. When this orc war boss heard he was coming, this goblin, because nobody had ever seen a goblin this big before. All he heard was there's a goblin war boss on his way to him. So he ordered all of his armies, or all of his men, to allow Grom to pass, and he was going to fight him one-on-one. And Grom smashed him. What Grom did not know, and Zoc found out the hard way, was after he ate the troll meat, he took on the same properties as a troll. And Zoc landed the first blow. But to his surprise, Grom just grew, his wound healed up, and Grom just proceeded to carve him up, like a piece of meat.
This is some Wolverine shit. Like, just takes it, watches it heal, and then hits him back.
You can just imagine him kind of move a little slowly about it, like, "Oh, what's wrong with you stupid git?" I'm not gonna keep that up forever, but so he beats the shit out of him. He carves him up. All these goblins are freaking out because they're all following him around, and they're all hearing this story about the chosen of Mork, Grom. All of the little gobos always hated being kicked around by the orcs, and now one of their own is just beat the shit out of another orc war boss. And after he does this feat, he is extremely tired because he hasn't eaten in probably 15 minutes.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I know. Always starving. He kind of collapsed, or he sat down, and when he sat down, he sat on a night goblin. And when eventually he regained his strength to stand up, he turned and looked and expected to see a smeared night goblin all over the ground. But Niblet, our old buddy, Lucky Niblet, was alive and well. And Grom thought this was so fortunate that he named Niblet his standard bearer. And
thank you, Mork.
Yeah, Mork protected. Mork protects. Yeah. So that was a great partnership of Niblet and Grom. From there, I don't. Do you know anything about him when he meets Blacktooth, old Blacktooth the shaman?
I never found anything of like their actual meeting, just that he was a part of their, or like he became somewhat more involved, like when he convinced Grom to actually go to Ulthaun.
Yeah, he just kind of slides in there.
Mm-hmm.
He features in the campaign as well, although as just ahead, like we just talked about. Eltharion decapitated him some years ago by the time the game starts, effectively ending the first WoW of Grom. But just to really quick get into the first WoW of Grom, you can look up maps of it, I guess, that are of the fantasy books of his WoW into the Empire, but he definitely led probably the most successful WoW prior to the end times. Not that I'm too familiar with the end times, but basically fucked up the Empire before, Carl got put in charge some years before then.
Yeah, it's a long way.
Yeah, he started off in the Badlands, just carved up the Empire, caused a crazy amount of problems, destroyed a bunch of Karaks that the dwarves are in. It kind of just took over the Empire for the most part. And eventually, old Blacktooth, the shaman who was in charge, or kind of putting into Grom's head where they should be heading and what they should be doing. Talked about how they should take to the sea and head west. And they built a navy, and as they were kind of going, like, they went to the north side of the Empire up by Nordland, started heading west along that ocean there towards Marienburg. The what was left of the Empire at that point sent their navy, to try and defend Marienburg, because at that point Marienburg was part of the Empire. Mm-hmm. And Grom won at the end of the day.
Surprise, surprise.
But yeah, he's unstoppable.
Yeah,
he's a juggernaut. So even though Grom won, a storm kicked up, and since greenskins are not really well known for their engineering, although they can make things work, they're just not very well.
Pump wagons are fine, but boats are not.
No, yeah, greenskins on boats, it's not a good matchup. So a lot of these ships sank as soon as they pretty much went out to the ocean. When the storms kicked up, more were smashed together. A bunch got just washed out to sea, probably to starve. And I'm not sure how many ships, because it makes it sound like only a fraction of the actual Wa Navy landed in Ulthaun. But even that fraction was so outnumbered, so immense that I gotta keep using immense. If only I could drink right now. If I didn't have to go back to work, it'd be a drinking game. Every time we say immense, you gotta take a drink. So even though it was only a fraction of its immense size, they landed in Ulthaun at a really bad time for the High Elves. I'm not exactly sure of the timetable, but it is definitely after the betrayal of Malekith. And as we know, Eltharion wasn't even in Ulthaun at the time. He was busy delivering, his raid into the Dark Elf Empire in Nagorond.
Yeah.
So Grom landed at a really lucky time for him and a really bad time for the High Elves. And this is where we pretty much sync up with Eltharion's story. Grom lands in Ulthaun, kills Eltharion's brother, kills his father, destroys Tor Everest, doesn't quite destroy Tor Everest.
Almost.
They were Old Blacktooth had a crazy plan to knock down all these waystones to just basically swallow up all the chaotic energy for himself and sink Ulthaun. But in the 11th hour, Eltharion came out of nowhere, chopped Old Blacktooth's head off. And when that happened, Grom's army just kind of collapsed in on itself, and they, greenskins are not well known for their discipline, as we were saying earlier. They also, I don't think they had even had ever suffered a defeat in a long time at that point. So it just
no, not at all.
Yeah, it was all these goblins who are really, just hanging on by a thread, really, just like mob. Just that one loss was powerful enough to scatter them. And Grom, in the story, I think Grom is captured by Eltharion, but in the game, Grom gets away, and he's been hiding out in the distance, rebuilding, or probably more like just eating his depression away.
I don't remember seeing Grom ever getting captured. I thought he just disappeared.
Maybe he didn't. I feel like I can't remember where I heard that, but let's just say he got away. It makes sense for the story, and I like to think he got out of there.
Yeah. Everything I read was like, no one saw him ever again.
Yeah. Well, the paunch is back, baby. So yeah, that takes us to where the game is. Is there anything else you want to bring up about his background? I mean, it's not much. He kind of ties in with Eltharion quite a bit, since that's the most.
Yeah, we did cover it. Yeah, it is. It's a lot of overlap, I guess, but I think that's pretty much it. It's where it leaves you in, well, both game modes, I guess, because there isn't really a set place where he went.
No. Like you said, he just got away. Empires campaign. The Vortex and Mortal Empires campaigns for Grom the Paunch are starkly different. I did a little bit of the Mortal Empires. I did like 2 kind of short campaigns on the Mortal Empires side, just to basically take Tor Everest. I basically stopped when I took that.
Yeah,
I could have kept going. But the Vortex campaign, believe it or not, usually I find the Vortex campaigns easier, I guess.
Usually, yeah.
And this one, I was playing on Legendary again, which I was talking to Archer yesterday when we almost recorded how salty I am that I go through all this trouble of getting good and I don't even get the damn achievement, which I didn't even really realize meant anything to me until I didn't get it. Thanks, CA.
Hopefully that was fixed. I think that was in the patch they released.
Yeah. I still do it for fun. I've been getting, it's fun to have that crazy challenge. So how did you play both the Vortex and the Mortal Empires, or did you finish one and not the other?
So this is kind of what happened. I started a Mortal Empires campaign, and I got about 160 turns into it, and realized I was at like several stalemates at the same time. So I wasn't really happy with how it was going. So I was like, oh, I'll try Vortex. Played like 3 turns of it and was like, holy shit, this sucks compared to the Mortal Empires. Just because you have like that mountain pass basically to like actually take for territory, and then everything else you take attrition just from like walking around. So I went back to Mortal Empires and played like what I would have called my most like finished campaign, which was like another 100 and some turns on Mortal Empires that went vastly better than the first one.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have I kind of like the Vortex campaign. It just made Ulthaun more of a center, like a focus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it made getting there quite a bit more difficult. I didn't have too much difficulty getting there on the Mortal Empires. It was still tough. It took me like, I did like a kind of a preliminary try on Mortal Empires. Then I went second time. Second time. And I did basically the same thing on Vortex. One kind of testing it out, and then a second time for realsies, because I usually end up in a stalemate, like you said. Like it's crazy. My first campaign on Vortex, 100 turn. Like I was where I was the second time. Like, my first time, 100 turns in, I was just getting into Ulthaun, and the second time I did it, like at slightly below 50 turns, I was entering Ulthaun.
Yeah.
So, I like these practice runs, especially with Grom, because I honestly do like the starting point in Vortex in my own way. I'll describe it later. But in the Mortal Empires campaign, it definitely makes you focus more on what makes the greenskins, great, which is sacking and raiding.
Yeah.
Which let's since I'm on sacking and raiding, let's talk about that, because it doesn't mention it in the race attributes, but they did a major change for raiding. Most factions, in order to raid with your army, it takes up 50% of your movement speed, which is a lot. Ambushing only takes 25%, and I do that stance a lot.
Yeah.
But with the greenskins, now you can use all of your movement speed, and you go into raid stance, but it's not even a normal raid stance. It's combined with encamp stance.
Yeah.
So there's no reason not to use it when moving through enemy territory. And especially, like you said, if it's a place that causes attrition, it will provide you with a little bit of a regeneration.
Yeah.
And money, you're always making money while you're doing this in enemy territory. Sometimes I spec all my armies as the greenskins to be good at raiding, just because I feel like it provides a lot of passive income in a way.
Big difference, yeah.
And also, one of his faction effects as the Broken Axe Tribe is -1 turn for global recruitment for goblin units. So normally it would take 2 turns to recruit just a basic goblin while on the move. But now, you get into a battle. Granted, you're losing the leadership, if your gobos are leveling up. But, fuck it, they're gobos. Just combine them and hire more.
Yeah.
Keep that goblin tide rolling. And so did you find sacking and raiding played more of a part in this campaign than any of the other previous campaigns? Because I feel like they definitely did. For sure.
Yeah. It was both the success and the downfall of my first campaign.
Oh, really? Do you mind getting into that?
Yeah. Basically, like, because you start in Massive Oracle in Mortal Empires, you're like in the middle of Britonia, but you're very much protected. Because for whatever reason, they just don't like going after that settlement. And even if they do, it's already fairly built up. So yeah, you kind of have like a home base it's not untouchable, but it's pretty easy to get going. So I kind of just ran around Bretonia raiding, and when I like kind of role play as the character, I just declared war on everyone because I just kind of figured that's how Grom would do it.
Ooh.
And it got rough really quick because I still just had like one settlement, and it wasn't actually that bad. And the worst thing that happened was that I had like raised and sacked so much of Bretonia that Musion, like the Red Duke, was doing really well. And Wulfric came down and like finished off like Corone.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like the faction was destroyed, and I was like, oh, I've done it. Like this is gonna be so much easier for me. Until this motherfucker, like Wulfric, decides he doesn't want to stick around and just like fucks off. And as soon as it like I kind of pulled back from there because there's nothing to sack or raid other than like vampire settlements, and I wasn't getting into a war with that. And so Wulfric left and like left it to turn over and for there to be a rebellion. So Corone reemerged as a faction and immediately confederated one of the I think the Knights of Origo, like in the deserts of Araby. So not only did they come back out of nowhere, I couldn't get rid of them without sailing all the way south. So yeah, and then you really just kind of came back.
You really fucked up the like the kind of like the natural order of things over in Bretonia.
Yeah, it was lots of fun. Like it was like probably 90 or 100 turns where I was just like running around fucking everything up, and it was a lot of fun. But it just does not make for a good long-term campaign.
Well, I think when I did my second go around in Mortal Empires for Grom, I kind of just got enough money and took over Alberic's territory, like just his, because all that you know, as a listener, you've probably played it. All of the territories around Massive Orcal are uncomfortable climate-wise. Yeah. So we were really, you know, it takes longer to recruit. It's more expensive. It takes longer to build. So I declared my first WA, which we'll bring up. Mm-hmm. The new WA mechanic is fucking amazing. It's the way it should be for the Beastmen Bray herds. It's basically you have a WA bar up at the top of your screen, and I don't know exactly it's kind of like quests that you do every time you get into a battle. Conquering it all kind of contributes to the WA, channeling that WA energy. And as you go up this bar, you start getting crazy bonuses, like bonuses to public order, bonuses to growth. So you're really encouraged to get it to a high level and maybe stay there for a couple turns before really picking and choosing your WA where you want to go. And that's the fun part. When it's time to call a WA, you choose whether to call it for Gork or Mork. Gork gives you extra weapon strength for everybody. Mork gives you extra missile strength. So sometimes you'll switch between them, as I did frequently. And, then you have to pick a target. So when you're picking a target, everywhere you look on of the races that you can currently see, they'll have a number like kind of over their city, and it indicates how strong their faction is. And the higher the faction rank, the bigger the prize. Because the goal is to get a trophy that provides you with constant bonuses that pretty much last until the next time you call a WA.
And is like race dependent as well. Like elves and dwarves and men all have like different trophies as well.
Yes, they all have different trophies, and the way it works. The way it worked previously, if you just started playing now, you're very lucky. Previously, when you triggered a WA, it did so automatically, and it generates a second army that follows you around, and you can sort of order order it what to do. Sometimes it listens, sometimes it doesn't. Usually it just gets in the way. And if it got killed within 10 turns, you suffered a diplomatic penalty for some reason.
Yep.
But now when you trigger the Wa, it takes several turns, but there's another army that's kind of stacked on top of your army that just, it's one button press to switch between your army and the Wa army.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is, I guess, faction dependent as well on which greenskin, but you start gathering extra units of goblins, trolls. Grom has an extra chance to have pump wagons in his Wa.
Mm-hmm.
The Wurzag has I forget what.
Azeg has wyverns. I know that one.
Oh yeah, wyverns. Yeah, Azeg has a chance to have wyverns in his Wa, or at least more of a chance.
Mm-hmm.
So when you call a Wa, every army that you are currently fielding that you have on the campaign map will generate a Wa army. So you're really encouraged to maybe pick up that second army at a certain point. So that way if you have 2 armies and you call a Wa, now you're essentially walking with 4 armies.
Yeah, exactly.
2 40 stacks. And that makes a hell of a difference when you're trying to besiege, the dwarves. Because in the Vortex campaign on Legendary, I know I watched Legend of Total War's guide, and I did carry it out one time, like way back when Grom, like the first DLC first launched. I followed it to the letter, and this time I couldn't really quite remember how we did it, so I basically waited until I could call my first Wa. I had already destroyed Imrik on the Vortex campaign.
Oh, okay.
I took him out right away. I took his city. He has a major settlement down there that is technically Badlands, even though it looks like it's in the desert. So it's good real estate to occupy as opposed to just sack and or raise.
Yeah.
So I could not penetrate the dwarves. I was in a back and forth in that mountain range, honestly, for probably like 20 turns or so. As I was building up that Wa energy and ready to take the primary settlement in the Arachnaros, World's Edge Mountains area,
right. Mm-hmm.
Because it's very difficult. The dwarves, their garrisons are very powerful, and then when they have a 20 stack on top of that, forget about it.
Yeah, like there's not very many factions I'd feel comfortable sieging that with a 20 stack, and greenskins definitely are not one of them. I don't care if it's like straight black orcs, just not doing it.
No, but with a 40 stack, you can do it. Especially you get some rock labas. Take out the towers right away. You start with a very powerful spellcaster. What is it? Her exact name? She's like
a Fishy Tiddlemuncha.
Fishy Tiddlemuncha. Sounds dirty when I say it.
It sounds gross.
I get the meat sweats just thinking about it. Fishy Tiddlemuncha is a river troll hag. I love monstrous units. Me and Archer have talked about this before. I love monstrous units.
Mm-hmm.
And the river trolls are friggin', they're new, they're amazing. The stone trolls, I have not seen the vanilla stone trolls since I installed the Wii special mod that actually makes them. Just download the Wii special mod for the stone trolls. It just changes the textures on them so they actually look different. You'll never go back. I'm sorry, I'm getting off track here. We talked about Fishy Tiddlemuncha, and
we're excited. It's okay.
I'm excited. I got the vapors. All right, so we got the race attribute of the Wa. We covered that. It's great mechanic. It gives you that edge. It makes you. It definitely plays into the greenskins, like lore wise. They reproduce by spores. So they're actually a type of fungus that grows up out of the ground as mushrooms, and the mushrooms turn into either goblins, stotlings, or orcs. So really, greenskin should be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It should reproduce like crazy.
Yeah.
So they're always shedding themselves.
It makes it honestly feel like the way it's supposed to be played. Like before, I just felt so outmatched because, like, lore-wise, they win by just having huge numbers. It's like similar to the Skaven, but not quite the same thing. Like they just
huge numbers and powerful heroes, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like there should be a way for you to have way more like fielded troops than other factions, especially like the dwarves. But they shouldn't be that great, which is exactly how they play right now, and it is it's a nice change, and it makes them feel like the way they should.
Yeah, and it's perfect. And it's kind of you get this. Your successes build off of each other so much. Like once you get 4 armies or 5 armies, when I called like my final law, that's like 5 40 stacks rolling around.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go wrong there. The next race attribute is the underway, which Archer mentioned earlier. It's a nice. If you've never played as the Greenskins or maybe the Skaven, because I have seen people in chat rooms that stay away from like the evil races, you could call them. They definitely are evil, I guess.
Yeah.
The underway is a different stance. It's kind of like forced march, where there are penalties to it. You don't move quite as far as forced march, but what it does do is you can just skip over impassable terrain. You get a mountain range and you want to get to the city that's on the other side, you just use the underway. You'll just pop up on the other side. You can pop over, areas of water. So instead of getting in the ships, like I was playing as Wurzag one time, and I wanted to get over to the Border Princes, and I was like, I wonder if I could just underway my way over this, like the ocean essentially. And it was just within range, so it saved me a good solid probably like 3 turns of getting into the ship, sailing across, getting out of the ship. The underway just moves you over in 1 turn.
Yeah.
If you get intercepted, I think if you lose all of your units, like in Force Much.
Yeah.
So it's a gamble. The maps are kind of, depending on your army, sometimes it's not really a threat, because the underway is usually a narrow map that's kind of, the enemy's at one side, you're at the other.
Yeah.
So depending on your army comp, this sometimes doesn't feel like a threat. Like if I'm the dwarves, which I haven't been in a long time, sometimes I'm like, if I get caught in the underway, well, so what? It's just going to be the greenskins, and they're just going to run into a wall of, dwarves.
Yeah, exactly.
And they can't outflank you.
Yeah, playing as a super defensive race, it's almost ideal actually, because you just like force the other army to come to you.
Mm-hmm. Whereas you're the greenskins and you depend more on surrounding your enemy, it makes the underway is not the best place for that.
Yeah.
So you said you got into a little bit of trouble using the underway?
A little bit. Nothing that like specific. The only thing that was really rough was in my first campaign, the Wood Elves were little bitches and kept like popping up by the starting province that Belagar has, like, just outside of the south part of the Empire, and like kind of diverges into like Y Mountains, like right by the Border Princes and in there, because I was holding that, and the Wood Elves just kept like popping up, sacking, and then like leaving again. And I just couldn't do anything. Yeah, they were just being assholes.
Yeah, the underway, you can't use it on Ulthaun. I discovered because I didn't need to use it for a while, and then I was like, oh, instead of taking the long way around and dealing with the gates, the high element gates, I was like, I'll just jump right over the mountains, and it's like, oh, there's no underway here. I was like, oh, son of a bitch. I guess that.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way too. I was like, haha, like I've taken the area around Tory Vrest. I will now go to the other side and take like the Tower of Hoeth and everything there. And it was like, you can't use this. And I was like, fuck, I'm not running around.
Yeah, I mean, you're really committed to Ulthaun once you go in there. Let's see. extensive. See, this is a weird race attribute. Just extensive unit roster with aggressive infantry, fast cavalry, and monsters. Mm-hmm. That's I guess that's an attribute.
Yeah, you could say that about almost every faction, though.
Yeah, well, but definitely, especially the greenskins. All right, let's jump into the juicy stuff. The faction effects. He has access to Grom's Cauldron, which is a I'm sure you've got a favorite recipe. It's so fun.
It depended, like more than anything, actually. Like certain ingredients were ones that I always chose to add as like the secondary effects. So more often than not, I would make something and throw on, like the one mushroom gives you a random amount of gold and some growth in the beginning, which was like really nice just to spam.
Yep.
And there was another actually mushroom that gives you like 20 winds of magic for all armies or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I just throw that one on more than anything. It wasn't like specific recipes that I was going for. It was more just trying to complete all the recipes and using certain ingredients to get the bonuses that I wanted.
Yeah, there's a kind of another side to this where there's I don't know exactly her name. It's just a river troll hag that sells you ingredients that shows up every now and again. Yeah. The hag merchant.
Yes.
Yeah, she shows up pretty early. She either sells you a random ingredient, which you can already possess, so be careful. Check your ingredients before you decide to pay, the gold for an ingredient you already have, because it'll let you just spend that money. You can rob her, which just gives you some scrap and money, or you can ask for the cooking challenge. Now, I didn't know it at first, but you can take the cooking challenge whenever, and you can always replace it with another one later if you can't figure it out. Basically, you want to do it, as early as you can when you get a couple of ingredients, because it unlocks a third and eventually a fourth spot in your cauldron. Yeah. So you can really mix and match, ingredients at a certain point to where you get crazy amounts of bonuses.
Yeah, it gets ridiculous.
My favorite was the Dragon Tail, which gives you Dragon Breath ammunition for goblins and night goblins, which causes all of your arrows to freaking explode, which is great when you're fighting the dwarves.
I'm gonna contest that because everyone really loves it, and I fucking hated it.
Really?
Well, it doesn't actually do that much damage. It just interrupts their troop movements.
I think it staggers them too when they're fighting, though. I think that's what I noticed. Yeah. It seemed like as long as they were being hit, they didn't do that much damage to whoever they were engaging. I think.
I just didn't like it because, I mean, with the night goblins and stuff like that, I just use them to flank and then fire into the dwarves' backs. And I'd end up hurting my own troops who aren't as armored as the dwarves, and I couldn't even take out a unit of quarrelers because I was essentially keeping them at bay, just blowing everything up around them, but not actually doing any damage. So
did you use the scrap? We haven't even mentioned the scrap mechanic yet, but let's just dive into that. With all my regular goblin units, I had Grom kind of outfitted with just a basic. He did not even get night goblins for the longest time. I just had maxed out regular goblin soldiers and goblin archers.
Yeah.
I gave all of my goblin archers heavy ammo as scrap, and it gives you plus 400% armor piercing missile damage. So all of my archers had armor piercing damage. Yeah. So maybe that was what was helping me, on top of the explosive, staggering them.
Yeah, I think I didn't find the Dragon Tail for a while, and which is why I was kind of already on Night Goblins at that point, which don't have that ability to do 400% armor piercing. So if you don't have that, you just have shitty arrows that explode and do no damage. I think if you combine the two though, that's probably where it is really good.
Yeah, because I didn't do the oops all archer spam, but I definitely did have a front line. I definitely had pump wagons to flank because pump wagons are fucking awesome, especially the spiky rollers. I love them. But I definitely did have a lot of archers. Probably like 5 at least 5 units of goblin archers.
Yeah.
Another ingredient, my favorite recipe was the Fishy Shroom Burgers.
Okay, yeah.
Because it gives you perfect vigor on Grom, which on Legendary, I'm always trying to kite people with Grom. And the fact that he has perfect vigor is all the better. It gives him the ability. Yeah, and he has regeneration. And also, he gets the ability Fishy Breath, which it's not a wind spell. It's like a cone spell, I guess.
A breath, yeah.
It's a breath spell. And it's a pretty powerful breath attack.
That's good, yeah.
And I would always ride him out in front, like way ahead, because I gave him the banner of swiftness. So it gave him, good boost to speed. Boy. And you just get just get off all 3 hits of the fishy breath and pull back. And yeah, it's great power, I think. And I also liked, what was it, Troll Meat, I think? It gives all of your goblins regeneration.
Yes, yeah, that was a good one to mix into whatever you're doing.
Mm.
One of the funner ones that wasn't actually incredibly useful, but was just really fun to use was the, it was like the, Offals one. It gave Grom Bangers and Mash ability.
Oh, which one was that?
It ups his charge bonus and his charge speed, I think. And then it's a percentage, so it's stacked on top of his already ridiculous charge bonus. And when you pop that, and if you had spec'd into it, he had some stupid several hundred number of charge bonus, and he'd just fly through basically anything. There was a video on Reddit, and I had found it out just before that, where he just goes through a unit of spearmen, and they're just being parted like the Red Sea, just flying everywhere.
I mean, it must be pretty crazy because I know you can stack these bonuses like crazy, and I wasn't even spec'd for that. And the amount of damage I could do with my charge bonus, like I said, I would charge Grom out in front with perfect vigor, so I would do a bunch of charge attacks with breath attacks as the enemy was getting closer. So, I gotta look up that. If you can find it, please send it to me because I'm gonna.
You want to talk about scrap?
Yeah. So there's another mechanic that was very necessary. Was a great addition, is the scrap mechanic. You get scrap by either quests, raising settlements gets you scrap. I don't know if sacking gets you any scrap. I think that just gets you money.
Yeah, I think you get a little bit just because you were in a battle, but you don't get any extra. Only raising does that, I think.
Yeah, you get a little bit of scrap every fight, but it adds up. And scrap is every individual unit in your army can be upgraded, provided you've unlocked the ability to under the Big Thinkin' tech tree.
Yeah.
Glad that they named it Big Thinkin'. But so, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, the regular goblin archers, I think one of their upgrades is either more ammunition that they can carry, or they can carry armor-piercing arrowheads. So
400%, which is not a small number at all.
No, now you have regular goblin archers that are dirt cheap, totally expendable, although you still want to keep them alive, but now they have armor-piercing damage.
Now they hit like a truck.
They hit like a truck, and there's a shit ton of them in a unit. Yeah. It's just the sheer number of arrows that are flying, and if you get a flank off and you're just firing into the back or the side, it devastates them. And there was another ingredient that I also liked. I did switch between that Dragon's Breath ammunition, and there was another one that gave you extra ammo, and you fired. They fired 2 projectiles every time instead of just the regular one.
I was using that. I think that was the Harpy Head.
Yeah, the Harpy Head. That was a good one. I used that a lot against the High Elves.
The other good one I liked was the Eagle Talon, because it gave you anti-large bonuses to archers.
Oh yeah. I ended up using. Who did I use it? I think I used that against Eltharion because I knew he had a lot of flying units.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
Yeah, they just tear through those dragons and like the griffins and stuff.
I fought so many arcane phoenixes. Like, it was a shit ton.
Yeah, I had one. It was crazy how the AI was like spamming arcane phoenixes.
Yeah, Altharion's army was like half. It was ridiculous.
And it's stupid because you can't. There's no way a human being can micro all those phoenixes to where they're effective.
Yeah,
but of course the AI can. So yeah, he's stacked with arcane phoenixes that actually use themselves.
Yeah, like my line's just sitting there and totally helpless as like 10 vortexes just come and throw themselves into me. But yeah, I was just like, okay, I guess I'm not having a win on this one.
Yeah, it was just about all I could do to make sure my River Troll Hag wasn't in one. Like I could only control like just a few units to make sure they weren't in there. But yeah, most of them got fucked up.
I was just like wishing for Net of Amatok so bad.
Yeah, no dice there.
Yeah.
So I don't really scrap. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it, other than I really enjoy it because sometimes I think the Mortal Empires was very different compared to the Vortex, just because of the enemies you're going up against with. So you can really tailor your armies. Like your Black Orcs, you can either make them better against infantry or better against large units. You can make your Ragnarok Spider either have more armor or bonus towards infantry or against infantry. You can give your pump wagons either extra ward save, or I think it's just physical resistance.
Yeah.
Or bonus against infantry again. But I liked having my pump wagons with the physical resistance just to make them that much tougher.
One of the nice ones I found actually was you could give nasty skulkers perfect vigor. So you could just run around and like flank stab people in the back and then just like fuck off.
I never even used nasty skulkers, honestly.
What? Really?
Yeah, I never found a place for them because I used my pump wagons as kind of my flanking force.
Every time I have a favorite unit, you never use them.
Don't worry, we'll align someday. Well, you're kind of a Gorky type of guy, and I'm kind of a Mork. We work together like that.
I'd say I'm a Mork guy personally, but
what's that?
I'm a Mork guy personally, but
Well, you change sometimes. One day you're Gork, and another day you're Mork. One of the things I wanted to comment on before I forget. I have a mod in that increases the odds that the units will get into like their battle chants. Like occasionally you'll hear units like I can't remember the Bretonnia one, but it does sound pretty badass. It's like for the lady, the lake, or the sword, or something like they all chant out as they're fighting. The goblins, when they chant out, it's terrifying. They just all these hundreds or thousands of goblins going, "We's gonna get ya! We's gonna get ya!" It just it is pretty terrifying. I don't know if you've ever seen the anime Goblin Slayer.
Yep.
I haven't seen anything other than the first season, but I love the idea of it because goblins, nobody takes them as a threat until there's thousands of them. And then tens of thousands, and it's like, what are you gonna do? I just imagine all these little psychopathic green things with all these very scary looking knives and these beady little red eyes, just screaming for revenge against the world of them getting beat up all the time by all the bigger races, I guess.
Yeah.
A whole army, a whole WA filled with Napoleon complexes. What could be more dangerous?
Guys with even worse complexes on shitty chariots.
Yeah. Well, they, I don't even think that they have complexes. They're just out of their minds, high on mushrooms.
Probably. It's the way to be.
It's the way to be. So if there's anything you want to add in about Scrap, I think we've pretty much covered it. A very awesome new mechanic that I look forward to playing with on the other Greenskin factions, because each faction has usually has some unique Scrap mechanic they can unlock for their race or certain units. So there's even more variety there if you decide, if I just try out Warzag or Skarsnik. I definitely want to do Skarsnik eventually.
Skarsnik?
Yeah, Skarsnik. But moving on, the suitable climate for the Broken Axe tribe is the Temperate Island, which is basically Ulthaun. Really likes it there. Their suitable climate is the mountains, Temperate Island, and Badlands. So it's a weird, strange combination, especially on Vortex, where you start in the mountain pass and you're pretty much surrounded by desert, other than that small patch of Badlands in the northeast that I talked about when we did Cetra's campaign. Yeah, that just sliver of Badlands that exist over there. So
yeah, it's kind of unfortunate.
Well, it really just like my first campaign on the Vortex, like I said, I spent so much time conquering all that desert territory, and I realized, like, what's the friggin' point of that? I'll take, Imrik's main city that he starts with, because it is technically Badlands. Take the mountains. Once I have that, I bribed Cetra with basically joining him in against all of his same enemies and got military access. And I just swooped up through his territories to the north, sacked New Moss to the point where Cetra could take it, and then I took the Badlands from the Topknots. And then, voila, I had one province that was on the ocean that was kind of like my staging point to getting to Ulthaun.
Right. Yeah.
So, the second time, I just didn't even fuck around. I, made friends with Cetra, did not raid his territories. I raided the Orion's camp down in the south whenever I needed money, because it was pretty good territory for raiding.
Yep.
And just made my entire effort to getting over to Ulthaun and really starting the campaign against the High Elves.
Yeah, I feel with the Vortex, the game is really pushing you just to kind of like get ready and go. And Mortal Empires, you can do it at pretty much any point, because Ultharian's not going anywhere.
Yeah, well, I felt like I kind of made a lot of money. See, the similar thing I did, or though different from you in the Mortal Empires campaign, you talk about how Grom would declare war on everybody, and that's true. But old Blacktooth, head in a jar, would probably recommend, a wiser course, because he's always kind of giving out advice. I would basically pick on one Bretonnian faction, like starting with Paravon, because I think that's who you're starting off a war. You just keep sacking the shit out of them until they ask for peace. You demand a couple thousand of gold out of them, and they'll usually give you that peace because you'll beat them up so much. And then you go against Aquitaine or freaking our old buddy Bordello. You go against Bordello, you beat the shit out of them until they offer you a couple thousand for peace. Then you go against Carcassonne, beat the shit out of them until they offer you a lot. And then you just declare a big wah, and because you can collect a lot of money by basically extorting the entire Bretonnian continent, as opposed to like burning it down. But that's kind of how I played it, just to give myself just the push to get to Ulthaun, because I made a beeline for it basically in both,
Yeah, and that's kind of what I did on my second go around, was just don't get involved with some of the bigger factions, and definitely don't get involved with Corona.
Yeah. Or just end it as soon as possible. You know. Let's see. Negative 80 relationship with the High Elves.
Not like you need diplomacy as the Greenskins anyway.
No, you're either fighting or you're not. You're either fighting or trade. There's no trade. I kind of, that's kind of disappointing. But all of the territories that have kind of access to unique, resources, give you specific bonuses. Like one in the Vortex campaign lets you get easy access to the Squig Riders, and I think it gives them upkeep reduction. There's the actual weird, unique building where you can build spiderlings and make them more powerful. Mm-hmm. That's there. I don't really recommend it, especially in the higher difficulties. Spiderlings are kind of just, they're not worth having in your army. If you find an iron mine, it reduces like upkeep and recruitment costs for black orcs. So there are still reasons to take certain cities if they have access to these things. Yeah. There's also in the Vortex campaign, there's a city in the Badlands, like that one province, that gives you access to an Oath Gold mine that once belonged to the dwarves, and it gives you a crazy amount of gold. So there are unique buildings that are worth getting. That although you don't trade, they still provide, a comparable income that you would get from that.
While we're on unique buildings, there's a really funny one at Grom Peak in the World's Edge Mountains.
Really? I don't know about it.
It's just like the name is unrelated as far as I know to Grom the Paunch, but essentially it's just a building that is a giant statue. It doesn't actually give you anything good. It's just like build a giant statue of Grom and you get 10 obedience is pretty good, but it's more like the novelty of it. And I was like, hell
yeah. Yeah, why not? 10 public order is solid, but why not? You get to build a statue of yourself. That's kind of awesome.
Exactly. It's hilarious.
Like we said, your Waz in the broken or Grom has a chance to contain pump wagons. Global recruitment duration -1 turn for goblin units. We mentioned that. Very, very helpful for replenishing those ranks because lots of gobos in your front line will die. You get +10 leadership for your army when fighting against elves, and your leadership stacks up quick, man. I had goblins running around with crazy amounts of leadership by the final battle.
Yeah. And Grom also has ability to lower leadership for, I think it's just for elves, but it's like -8 or something like that, which is not insignificant.
Then there's another ingredient that I think furthers lowers their leadership.
I think so, yeah. So you can kind of, it's weird, but you can make goblins hold out longer than like Phoenix Guard.
They definitely did, man. I got some very disciplined Goblin Guard by the end.
Yeah, it's. I think it's gonna get fixed a little bit, so they're not quite as crazy. But
I love it. It's so fun.
The moment is just ridiculous and super fun.
Physical resistance 10% for all units in his army. -50% upkeep for chariot and pump wagon units. And they really try to encourage you to keep pump wagons in your army because he also gets a trait that when he levels up at a certain point, that gives all of your pump wagons perfect vigor, as well, I think, charge bonus. But the perfect vigor is
really good, yeah.
It's really good, man. Because they do slow down considerably once they get tired. But when they get that perfect vigor, man, awesome. He has regeneration because he ate a troll that's constantly kind of like digesting in his gut. So I would use him to go. That's why I kept mentioning I loved using him to go out in front with the banner of swiftness as well as a breath attack. And because by the time the army would actually reach my front lines, Grom would already be whatever little damage was done to him, he was already fully healed. So it was nice to do that. Grom's Wa replaces Wa, which I wish I should have written it down. I think it gives all of your units like regeneration while you activate the Wa.
It's fairly minor, but it's like 400 points or something like that, which is pretty good when you consider it's for every single unit.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I was constantly having problems remembering to trigger my Wa during the battle, because Was are your extra army on the campaign map, and you can also trigger Was in battle.
Mm-hmm.
And I would sometimes forget, but that it's still 400 hit points or whatever it is, healing to all your units. Got to keep pretty powerful. Like you said, it sounds minor, but if you spread it across all of your units, not so minor. I don't know.
Well, and I found I used Grom's Wa significantly less just because I was getting it less. Just the way it works is it's by like entities actually fighting at any given time. So like the more you have, the faster it'll build up.
It's melee range too. Like arrows, and artillery does not contribute to it, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. So like when I had Grimgor with a huge line of Black Orcs in the end of the campaign, he could pop a wall like super quick, because like everything was in combat like as soon as possible. Whereas with Grom, I mean, I used a little bit more of a mix. Like there was archers and pump wagons and a few trolls in there that maybe weren't immediately in the battle, so it just took a lot longer to build up because it was less about like just quickly annihilating.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. That sounds very similar to me. Like I'd use my goblin front line to tire out the enemy quite a bit, and then that's when I would hold back my trolls, which we'll talk about them in a minute, since you start with them, and the pump wagons. I hang them back, because I just to preserve. Trolls, they can take a lot of damage very quickly, even as powerful as they are.
Yeah.
So if you send them up against an enemy where the unit is already like tired or winded or something like that, they're going to be a lot less effective when they're fighting the trolls. And that kind of sounds like how I was. I had a very mixed army as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not really over. I mean, I did create other armies that were much more specialized, but Grom's army was very, very balanced. I felt like I had an awesome balance for his army.
I'm kind of curious because I definitely did it, but the two they're not legendary lords, but the other two.
Oh yeah, you can build themed armies. There's one who leans towards savage orcs, and there's one. I didn't have any luck with the savage orcs. I tried building an army of them, but I think legendary penalizes your melee stats so much.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I could make it work. I'm sure there's a way I could find it to make it work, but what's the other legendary lord? It's a goblin.
It's like, can't remember his first name, but Spider Claw, and he gets like a bunch of bonuses to like Spider Riders and Ragnarok. So it's a stupid army, but it was lots of fun.
Well, I think his mount also like shits out baby spiders.
Yes.
Or no, he can do it even before he has the mount. He can just summon spiderlings.
Similar to like the Regiment of Renown Ragnarok Spider, like the Ragnarok Queen or something.
Mm-hmm. Because there are unique Y units as well they're not like quite Regiment of Renown, but if you complete your WA, sometimes you unlock extra units. Mm-hmm. Like was it the feral Hydra, the Lava Queen Spider Ragnarok.
I got a couple of wyverns from.
I never got a wyvern.
Yeah, I only got it once, and it's based on like the territory you do it in. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I did it sort of like Southern Empire mountains, and it gave it to me. I don't know, but I got one. Hydras are better though.
Hydras are pretty freaking awesome. I like the Lava Ragnarok Queen Spider though.
Awesome. I never ended up getting one. I got like the Lava Spider Riders.
Oh yeah, I got those too.
But that's I think that's from a cooking recipe rather than a actual WoW unit.
Yeah, I think you might be right there. Yeah, but the big lava mama is pretty awesome. So we also get 2 new units that are actually 3 new units that start in his army. Actually 4, because if you count the hero, the River Troll Hag. Yeah, so you get the River Trolls, which they're just better trolls than your average troll. They're aquatic, they're regeneration. I think they have I think you can eventually unlock let's see, what are their scrap upgrades?
It's like bonus versus infantry or leadership, I think.
Yeah, so it's plus 15 leadership if you give them Liquor Flask. So that's quite a step up. Trolls that have high leadership are incredibly dangerous. And once you start stacking heroes like the new Black Orc Big Boss, which is awesome. I love him. He provides, I think, you can really spec them towards creating, having more of a leadership effect, as well as the River Troll Hags. So, I mean, I had trolls in Grom's army that would fight to the bitter end, and I lost my original Stone Troll unit like that because their leadership was so damn high. They literally fought until they
just wouldn't break.
Which is pretty crazy because trolls are tough, and trolls that don't run away. Although you kind of do want them to run away since they have regeneration. So it
depends on the circumstance. I don't know how you use monstrous infantry, but like the most common way and the way I usually end up using stuff like that is just like to throw it in with your main line once they engage so that they can deal damage without taking much. So like the trolls worked really well that way. But if they decided to run, like they were gonna have to like slowly push their way out of a bunch of goblins.
Yeah, no, I definitely did it that way too, unless I could safely, like if I knew my flanks were taken care of and they weren't going to be intercepted, then sometimes I'd use them as a flanking force, or I'd hold a unit back in reserves, especially when they had a dragon or something, because I'd like my stone trolls to go up against their larger units, just because they're armor piercing.
I used them a couple times as like a goon squad.
A goon squad,
like when an enemy lord would like either try and take out my lord or like a hero or something like that. I was trolls handy. I was like, all right, just go beat the shit out of him. So it's like a circle of trolls just smashing one dude.
They're good for taking on heroes like that. You gotta make them. You gotta make them pay the troll toll. If they want to get into Grom's hole, they got to pay the troll toll. I really like the stone trolls. Like I said, other than
their CA,
their model. But like I said, I downloaded the mod, so they look like actual stone trolls. And in my mind, that's canon. So I'm just gonna. That's all I've seen. I do like the stone trolls a lot because they have armor piercing and they're just really tough. But that's not to say the river trolls don't have a place either. I, like you said, I kind of kept them around as kind of a goon squad. Yeah, you said it best, man. You said it best. Especially when you've got all your cheap goblin units. There's really no reason to go with orcs, I felt, at least in your beginning army, because the goblins are so damn cheap. You got bonuses towards them. And, why not have some heavy hitters in there that the trolls?
Yeah, and all the recipes are geared towards goblins. I don't think there's anything that buffs orc unit specifically.
No, I think there might be. I think there's like one or two. Like one maybe gives them frenzy. Nothing like overpowering like the goblins get. But there's definitely frenzy for orcs. There might be something else, but
like there's stuff for trolls and rogue idols and stuff like that, but not for. Orcs kind of got not looked at very much.
I'm okay with that, Yeah. I did have one of my favorite units was the Crimson Killers, the Black Orc Regiment of Renown. I had them teamed up with the Black Orc War Big Boss that I have in my army.
Mm-hmm.
Like the big boss stands out front, and the Crimson Killers are right behind him. That was a pretty awesome goon squad that I got to make with that.
I saw in the patch notes that just came out, actually, just as a side note, that the Black Orc Big Boss's both his armor piercing and his like base melee attack are being halved because he was just doing way too much.
Oh, come on.
Dude, it was pretty rough. Like, I would throw him into like huge, massive like balls of chaff, and he would just go through it all. Like, he was just a fucking grinder for garbage units.
But he should be. He's a Black Orc Big Boss, man.
But it was too much. Like, he was basically a vortex spell.
No, he definitely was.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
But I like him, man. I don't want him to change him, and I got mine stacked. Like mine has was this the Sword of Bloodshed? Gives him just crazy bonuses to melee attack, weapon strength. Mm-hmm. He's got great armor. I got ward save on him, and I guess he doesn't really have a good enchanted item. That's just whatever. But yeah, I love the Big Orc Big Boss. Like you said, we wanted Black Orcs with a sword and board combo, and he has it. I think he has an axe and a shield, or sword and shield.
I think it's called.
Yeah, it's a choppa. He's got a choppa and shield, and he's great. I like what you can do with him. He's got the skills, man, to make him powerful. And a lot of bonuses towards leadership of other units.
Yeah. Well, I think the upgraded version of Get Back Here is
Smash it faster.
Yeah, it's leadership and melee attack.
Plus 24 melee attack.
Yeah. Which is, he pops that every, like, I think it's like 2 minutes or a minute. Like, the cooldown's pretty quick.
And if you got your like I do, I have my Crimson Killers with him, and always surrounded by other units, man.
Yeah.
You're right. But I love it, man. I love my greenskins. They're finally good. Why do they gotta take it away?
Good.
No, not at all. I gotta do my Skarsnik campaign before they cripple him again. So that's the trolls. We got the pump wagons, the snotling pump wagons, which I'm another big fan of. I always kept 3 in my army. They were kind of like the mop-up force, or they would go after archers. They absolutely devastate anything infantry, whether they're armored or not.
Yeah,
they're just fucking get the spiky rollers. They're armor sundering, so they're actually, I think, what is that? They weaken the unit's armor rating.
Yeah, instead of just ignoring part of their armor, they just lower it for everything.
Yeah, they just carve up anything that you run them into. It's awesome. And then with the bonuses, go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say with Grom's bonuses. Let me see the exact bonus here, because I love his tech tree. Chariot races.
Yeah.
Plus 10 armor for pump wagons, plus 12% speed and perfect vigor. So, yeah. Anyway, go ahead with what you were gonna say.
Oh, I was just gonna say I like them just because I could leave them in combat. Like, I could forget about them for a couple seconds. Whereas
you can forget about them for a while, man. They're not going anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, they hold up a whole lot better. Like, their charge bonus isn't as great, and they're not super fast. But the fact of the matter is like, besides Bretonia in the beginning, I didn't fight anyone fast. So I like them just because my micro sucks, and just telling them to go somewhere and then coming back and they're still in decent shape was really. I sound like a shitty player, but it was really nice.
No, well, you're right, man. Like, check it out. I gotta brag about who's the biggest here, but now that I'm playing on Legendary, like you said, exactly. The pump wagons are tough, and then you give them the physical resistance, the armor on top of that, as well as leveling up in Grom's like army tree to make them even more powerful.
Yeah.
What you say there, what I ended up microing the most was Grom, the River Troll Hag, and my archers. I have an Arachnarok Queen Spider that, so it was a few units, and especially the archers, I was microing.
Yeah.
And, the River Troll Hag is a powerful spellcaster, but you got to use her in the right places. But having those, the pump wagons, like you said, I love it that you can set them, forget them, and they're probably still going to be there when you're like, oh shit, how are they doing?
Yeah, one thing I liked about having a giant river troll hag, well, that's a mouthful, is like popping soul blight on people, which is a big difference when you're like using goblins early game, because it lowers the base melee attack and armor piercing or something like that. It basically takes away a bunch of damage from any other infantry, which kind of evens the odds with your beginner goblos.
No, I definitely maxed it out, and I was overcasting that like crazy in the beginning. Minus 30 armor and minus 30% base weapon damage. So you're definitely putting your goblins at a much better position when you drop that. And it's a wide area. It's just 40 meters, and you can get a lot of enemy troops in that circle.
Yeah. And so Spirit Leech is also one of my favorite spells probably in the game.
Yeah, I love Spirit Leech.
I'm just like, free damage? Cool. I don't have to do anything.
I know, right? What else did I use? The Purple Sun of Xeris.
Yeah.
Real quick, we got to mention you get Blacktooth's head in a jar very early on, which allows you to summon a rogue idol that lasts for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always have the River Troll Hag kind of out in front. I'd have her pop down the rogue idol. She would then vomit on whoever was like closest to her.
Yeah.
I would run her back and then use the Purple Sun of Xeris and drop it on top of the rogue idol. And that would usually, all the units are gathered around that thing. And
take care of it for a little bit.
Yeah. And if you overcast that Purple Sun, because once you take some of these high elf properties that give you bonus to magic reserves everywhere, that Purple Sun sticks around for a while and can really fuck things up, man.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm not usually a big Deathcaster fan, but when it's either that or like a orc or goblin shaman, like definitely worth bringing a Deathcaster.
Yeah, and they really synergized. The death magic goes really well with Grom and the army that you have. Like you said, Soul Blight is very effective when all you've got is a bunch of goblins that may or may not have some scrap upgrades. And the Life Leech is very important because Grom is a really good lord, like very awesomely tanky. He does a fair bit of damage, but he could be a good duelist like temporarily with like his special weapons and stuff, but he's just not quick at I would say dueling. Like he can dish it out, but it takes him a while. I found it better for him to be in the thick of things.
Yes.
Because his attacks can hit a bunch of units at the same time, it feels like.
I liked him because he was really effective. You can cycle charge with him, or you can just like throw him in a big blob and he'll do just fine. Yeah.
Either or. It depends how much time you have to micro him.
And what the other faction you're fighting is.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you can get bogged down. Like there are a couple close calls I had. Eltharion dropped his cage spell on me at like the worst possible time, and it was like all these Sisters of Averlon like unloaded on me. And I don't have it equipped anymore, but it was like one of the lower level armor things that have you. I think it's like Shield of something. That when you click it, you get extra missile defense or missile block chance or something temporarily. And I was. Yeah, I was like, oh shit, they hit that. with regeneration, like it would only let me heal like a halfway towards my max because I just lost so much. I was like, oh, that was a close one.
Yeah, that would have been rough.
I was so pissed. I forgot he had it because like I went battle after battle and he never used it on me. And then all of a sudden it's just like the AI was playing the long game and suckered me in.
Played right into their hands.
I did. Where do we go from here? Is there any other new units or anything like that we should cover? I guess
maybe cover the rogue idol. We haven't talked about that.
Oh yeah. I mentioned that we summon it, but the rogue idol is reminds me of like a Titan from Hercules, the animated movie, Disney movie. It's the slow moving thing. The animations are awesome. I love how like it's a giant rock monster.
Actually, yeah.
When it throws its arms around, they kind of disengage from its body, but then they shoot back into place after an attack. Mm-hmm. The attacks are awesome. It just falls over or slaps things.
My favorite one's like the clap, just like the
clap. Yeah, the clap is devastating, man.
The flop is a good one too. We're just kind of like, oh, all right.
You order him to charge, and he's just like, ah. The Regiment of Renown one. I forget what it's called.
The Biggin.
The Biggin? Is that what it's called?
The Biggin, yeah.
Oh yeah, the Biggin. Yeah. That one has artillery attacks essentially. Mm-hmm. Throw pieces of itself. And it also has a special ability where it can cause some damage to itself to get ammunition back. So,
and it hits like a truck. Like,
oh my god!
Like it's not Queen Best, but it's pretty close. Like it'll trash things.
The accuracy is, not the best, but like you said, very comparable to Queen Best. I the first time I used it, I threw it into like a bunched up group of high elf archers, and I just watched them turn into like mist. I was like, oh shit, that was worth it.
I just want to see, like a bunch of Cygors and the Biggin have like a rock throwing contest.
Yeah, it is more powerful than Goblin Doom Divers. If it hits, it's
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you ever use the Doom Divers in first person and like aim the shots yourself?
Oh yeah, I didn't in this campaign because you have no time to. But
yeah,
it's pretty fun. And if you get the hang of it, like I did a short chaos campaign. I didn't finish with Sigvald. He starts with basically the equivalent, the Doomfire or
the Doom Cannon. Yeah.
Yeah, if you take it over and you practice with it, you can get crazy amounts of kills. Like, because you'll always hit. You're not going to be like the AI that's like doing this random calculation where it's going to miss like a quarter of the time.
Yeah.
But it's pretty fun. It's like I couldn't believe it when I saw one day Legend was like people in his chat were like, oh, I go shoot the Doom Diver for first person. And he's like, no, it's stupid. All right, I'll do it like a couple times. And then he jumped in. I was like, what the fuck? I can't believe it lets you do this.
Well, I think it was him and Major Kill did like the Doom Diver Olympics.
Yeah, they did.
So funny.
Doom Divers are very powerful. Like if you look at the strict stats, like I think they do less damage than Rock Lava, but they're so much more accurate.
And yeah, they got a little bit more range as well.
I don't know about you, but I always went with the scrap upgrade that reduced their reload time by like 25%.
Yeah,
just more gobos in the air. What's to lose there?
Well, yeah, I was either that or range, and I was like, I'm gonna take more shots. Actually,
yeah, I'm a big. Quantity has a quality all its own. Let's see. So yeah, that's the Biggin and the Rogue Idol. There's also some other variants, like we all know there's the Arachnarok Queen Spider. Now there's a Lava Arachnarok Spider, which has special splash attacks. Looks like a boss out of Dark Souls. You got feral hydras, feral wyverns that you can unlock after a armored squig hoppers. Oh, I never unlocked that. I want armored squig hoppers. That sounds awesome.
I'm not a big squig guy, to be honest.
Well, with Skarsnik, he gets a lot of bonuses towards them. So they kind of...
And I think most like goblin big boss like lords get a bonus to them as well.
Oh yeah, I think they do. You get super squigs, which I never really used. They're just bloated corpses, essentially.
Yeah.
I like the description of it. Hold on, let me see if I can bring it up. What? Where goes? Where? I thought like I saw one description somewhere where it was like sometimes in the wild, like the smallest noise basically sets them to explode, or sometimes like their own like gut, like digesting something, will just cause them to spontaneously. Yeah. But yeah. Now the greenskins have a huge variety of units. So if you've never given them a chance before, try them out. But
at least it's Grom, because then with Gobos it's a little bit more fun.
Grom's campaign is awesome. Speaking of, it's campaign time. So we already covered a little bit. You did way more Lampires than me.
Yes.
I completed the Vortex yesterday, so at least I have that done. What are your... I don't know. Tell me, you've got kind of to start with like a big picture view about how, because Grom definitely, I've never given this much time to any greenskin faction. I've always liked them, but they get boring very quick, or they used to.
Yeah.
So I never really finished, even came close to sticking long term with a campaign.
Right.
How did you feel about relying on Gobos, the aggressive playstyle? Did it? I mean, it definitely felt a lot different than playing as Eltharion. I'll tell you that.
No staunch line of spears here.
Staunch line of spears. No, man, you're always moving. At least I felt like, it's kind of
fun. Like for me, I play very defensively usually. Like dwarves and high elves are my shit, because I'm just like, I'll turtle whenever possible.
Good strategy, man.
And I usually kind of find my own way to incorporate it, but with the greenskins, I tried to play every battle like a greenskin, like Grom might order his troops to be, which is like very minimally, other than just like fucking get them. So
get the gets.
Yeah, exactly. For the most part, like as soon as the battle started, like everyone was just like running. There was very few times where I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna stick to the high ground and like try and bring them into my line." It was mostly just like, "All right, like fuck them up."
I probably eventually became a little bit more defensive as I finally got artillery. I think it was a while before I got artillery.
Yeah.
Just because I got locked in the very beginning of the game. Let me see. Can I bring up? I don't think I can figure out how to do that. But in that first campaign of the Vortex, the Southlands, World's Edge Mountains, you have the dwarf faction. I can't remember the name. They start out in Carrick-Zom in the major settlement there.
Oh yeah, that's just Carrick-Zorn.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, they, like I said, I couldn't take them for the longest time. So I kind of skipped on over to Imrik. I was raiding the Wood Elf territory and Carrick-Zom just without declaring war on either of them. I waited till Imrik left to go conquer a nearby settlement, and then I took his primary settlement, and that really put him at a huge disadvantage because he immediately thought he had the advantage because he did have dragons. I know he had at least one dragon. He had his dragon princes.
Yeah.
He had the quality. He just didn't have the quantity.
I mean, yeah, that's high elves in a nutshell.
And then with the River Troll Hag, using the pop in the Rogue Idol. I mean, suffice it to say, wiped out Imrik very early on. I had just taking my first starting province took me way more than probably Legend of Total War took him. You know, like they eventually took. I was down to one settlement, my original starting settlement at one point, because the dwarves, like, they would push out every time they had an opportunity to. I would kind of use my underway to jump back over. Then they would retreat to like a minor settlement. I'd take that back, and you know, eventually, once I triggered the Wa, I just basically started at the north end, back at Mount Arachnaros that I took in the beginning, worked my way and just back to their main settlement, and that was like the first Wa target I had set. And of course, they weren't very powerful, but I think at the time there was a quest that wanted you to just get a trophy to give you an ingredient or some reward.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was just like, fuck it, you know. I needed to take Karazhan. You have to unify your first province, really.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, they were always going to be a threat.
Yeah, and there's nowhere else to go. You got desert all to the west, and to the east is the edge of the map. So there's need to start building up. The dwarf matchup against the greenskins is very, I'll mention, it's very difficult. Unless you catch the dwarves in an ambush or out in the open, you're in a tough fucking fight, man. I don't.
Mid to late game, it gets pretty rough.
Well, even in early game, you know, regular pump wagons are good enough against, you know, quarrelers, maybe even against their, you know, regular, I don't know what you call them, dwarf warriors. Are they like the basic units?
Those guys, and then there's like miners who are their like lowest cheap infantry.
Yeah, they're still very tough compared to regular gobos, and they have high leadership when your goblins do not.
Yeah,
and guess what? They're also magic resistant. So, I mean, fortunately, Soul Blight does help with that. Usually, when I fight against dwarves prior to this, I used to rely on artillery to really do damage to the dwarves. Like if I knew I was going up against dwarves, I'd just get like 4 rock lavas and try and take them out that way. In this instance, I just needed numbers. I basically, when I finally took Karazhan, I sent my Wa army in first and just had them basically do that, you know, just the straight up balls to the wall attack, throwing themselves in.
Yeah, and jump then on the ladders and go.
Yeah, and then I basically forgot about them. I think I might have even set them to AI control, honestly, because I did that a lot. I would just set my, you know, I'd want my army to be in with me, but I would just set it to AI control and then worry about my own army. I was like, whatever the Wa army does can only help me. Like, it'll distract the enemy. I liked having the AI control that extra army because it's too much to control 40 units. I can't do it.
It's you know? Yeah.
My computer screen is not that big, so there's too many unit cards, and they don't come in organized. Like, they don't self-organize. Like, they're like, oh, some archers, an orc, war boss, more, you know, war boys, archers, pump wagon, troll, all randomly spread out, and it's pain in the ass, man. Too many units.
I'm like, oh, cool. I have to sort all of this.
And you do. You have to sort it out, and when you can't pause it either, like, you're just like, oh, it's like shuffling a deck of cards, man. And I'm not that good at it. I don't play cards. I can't shuffle them. So I know you fought Bretonnia in the beginning of your Mortal Empires campaign.
Yeah.
I can comment a little on that, but why don't you tell me and the audience your experience fighting Bretonnia, because they are much more mobile than the dwarves. I don't know why it's that hard.
There's 2 things that are really good against Bretonnian knights, and that is trolls and Foot of Gorg. So, like, the matchup isn't that bad because your infantry will absolutely smash anything they have, especially early game before they get foot squires or even like men-at-arms with polearms. Like, their basic men-at-arms, like swords and spears, are garbage. Like, they are just chaff. So you will win that fight with even just like 1 upgrade to your gobos. Like, even just being in Grom's army is pretty much enough to make them better. And Yeah, like for the most part, you just kind of try and get their horses, like as much of their cavalry together into a blob and just like trap them in. Because yeah, if they can't cycle charge, they can't do as much damage. And Grom was pretty good at like focusing them into like one place, and then it was just a matter of like popping Foot of Gork as much as possible. This is probably like the best anti-cavalry spell in the game.
I'll have to remember that.
It's very satisfying to get like 3 or 4 Grail Knight units just all stacked up on top of some gobos, and then like a big like Gork just comes out and squashes them all.
That's what you deserve.
Yeah, it's immensely satisfying.
Drink. Did you I mean, I basically, when I fought the Bretonnians, relied mostly on my missile infantry. I kind of, that was the instance when I think the AI would sometimes spawn like a very heavy yeoman heavy army.
Oh,
Usually,
okay,
like I'd defeat the initial army that they started out with. That was pretty fairly balanced, and then they'd, yeoman spam me. So I'd kind of like create a circle of gobos with the archers in the middle and just whittle them down with archer fire first.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of, I don't think I never had to deal with their higher tier units, at least not in enough number to, I don't know, I never had Foot of Gork.
Yeah.
So did you actually make the push to Ulthaun? After, I know you said you basically caused the entire collapse of the Bretonnian Empire, at least where they start. I had a same effect where Musion was definitely rising way more than he ever had, because don't, why even mess with him? He's fighting the same fight you are. What kind of happened from there? Did you end up going to war with the Norskins? Because Wulfric didn't leave me alone. He didn't take off like he did for you. He wanted to start a fight with me.
No, I only saw him the one time in that campaign, and yeah, he fucked off somewhere after. He didn't really want anything to do with me, and like yeah, from that campaign, I still only had like massive Oracle, so I was making like no money, and I was able to support like Grom's full 20 stack because it's like cheap gobos.
Yeah.
But getting anything more than that, especially if I wanted like orcs, was just not happening. So I tried to get more territory, like taking the mountains around there. But like Skarsnik had already gotten wiped out, and Clan Angren was pretty dug in.
Ooh.
And like I did manage to like secure that territory. Oh, also you have to take out like the Barrow Legion for Blackstone Post there. And I eventually did like kind of get through them all, but the Wood Elves decided they weren't happy with me, and like I said before, they just like pop in, fuck me up, and then leave again. And that's really where my campaign ended. Like I was 160 turns in, and I had like just been going back and forth in that one area for so long. The only other thing that happened was I sent an army to the Badlands because I wanted to get some territory there, just to like have territory. And when I got there, it was all Grimgor. He was the number one power by like far and away. He had almost the entirety of the World's Edge Mountains and 90% of the Badlands, except for like a little bit of the southern part, which was Cetra's. So he was basically untouchable. I couldn't get any more territory without fighting another greenskin, and I tried to like find Grimgor himself to confederate him, because that's changed on the newest update. But yeah, it was just, I was so tired of going back and forth and not really getting anything, and it didn't look like I was going to be able to go to Yvres anytime soon.
Yeah, what Archer was just mentioning there in the update, just like Norska had been previously, if you defeat a Greenskin's faction leader in battle, you can immediately confederate their entire faction. So you just need to defeat the boss, and that's it. You can take it all for yourself.
Which would have been nice, but yeah, couldn't find him and was probably not equipped to do it anyway.
Yeah. See, I think you made the mistake of I'm not criticizing you or anything.
No.
I actually, in the campaign in Mortal Empires, I didn't even take Bordello this time.
Yeah.
I basically sacked and extorted enough income from everything around Massive Orcal. And as soon as I got a strong enough army to cross the ocean to Ulthaun, I did it. And I landed in Misnar. And I think I did it around turn 50. Mm-hmm. And it's turn 58 right now, and I'm besieging Tor Ivres. And I could probably take it. I just started playing the Vortex campaign at this point.
Yeah.
And I think it wants you to take Ulthaun because, one, it's an island, so you're separated from the fucking wood elves, you know? You don't have to deal with the Skaven because the Skaven have... It's like weird. I'm looking at the map. The Skaven and Musion have really started taking advantage of the chaos that I've caused here. Like it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
Because, AI prioritizes the player. So even though the Skaven are knocking on the back door, they're like, oh, gotta go kill Archer and Pax because no matter what we do, we gotta use up. Yeah. But one thing I noticed that's pretty cool, when you take over territory in Ulthaun, you chop all the trees down. Did you ever notice?
No, yeah.
I think it's the only place where you actually have it doesn't do anything other than just you're wiping out the forest there. So it kind of looks cool as you're conquering Ulthaun. It just becomes more and more barren.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, in my second one, I kind of switched it up and decided to do a mixture of what I'd done before, but also I went.
So that was your first campaign you're telling me about, where you got just bogged down.
Yeah, I was just tired.
No, I got you. I mean, just to echo the same sentiment. My first Vortex campaign, I got bogged down in the deserts. Fighting Cetra. It was a waste of time and didn't get me any closer to Ulthaun, honestly.
Yeah, it was just one of those, I could have kept playing, and I might have actually, gotten out ahead, but it would have taken me, more turns than it took to just restart and try it again.
No, I totally get you.
Yeah.
So tell me about the second time. You said you went more of a mix.
I was a man with a plan.
You're a man with a plan.
I did the same sort of thing, raided for a little bit, but I wasn't declaring war on everyone. I wasn't stacking as much, just raiding.
Raiding.
Yeah. Just taking Paravan and then Bastogne to the north. Those are the only two I ever interacted with, and Bastogne not that much. It was mostly just staying away from the major powers. I didn't want to go to war with the Empire. I didn't want to fight Corona at all because I just knew how that was going to go. And so I kind of took that territory around there and confederated Skarsnik as soon as possible. And because I didn't want him to die right away, because it's basically a free territory if you can get him.
Yeah.
And so once I had Massive Oracle and then the province of that mountains that follows around the Empire, between the Empire and Bretonnia there. Once I had that, I had Skarsnik and Grom, and I popped a Wa and just went through the Wood Elves.
Nice.
Because one of the recipes gives Grom's army, he's immune to attrition, for the entire army. So, essentially I was walking around with 4 stacks, and I just kept going, through each one. They didn't put up much of a fight, and the forests of Athel Loren were razed and burning, pretty much until the campaign ended.
That's awesome. You got your revenge against them, pretty much.
Yeah, that's revenge from my first Grom campaign and my Albert campaign.
The greenskins was the answer.
Apparently, yeah. Just get immune to attrition and the ability to summon 2 extra armies, and that's how you win.
That's a good feeling, though. It sounds like I'm happy.
I was just yeah, fuck you. Every time I went back to Massive Oracle to look at, and see if I needed to do anything, and like just seeing it sitting there burning, I was like, like, it's satisfying to go back and just be like, yeah, fuck you.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I kind of did the same thing. Like I kept going towards the Badlands, but it was like 100 turns sooner. I was moving there like a turn 30 or 40. Clan Angren had not nearly as much territory, so I was able to go through them. And I really tried to avoid raiding like really powerful people. And I know like the border princes can be, but they're not as spammy as like the Empire or
no,
Eternia. So I was raiding, and I was at war with them for a little bit, but they eventually asked for a peace treaty, and I took it. And once I reached the Badlands, it was kind of the same thing. Like Grimgor had taken a large portion of it, but I was able to. Well, I actually only waited a couple turns, and he got beat down. Like he lost a couple armies and wanted to confederate. So I was like, fine, like I'll take most of the Badlands for free. But yeah, and then from there was just like a long ass war with the dwarves. Like it was, yeah.
I was very grateful I only had that initial opening campaign against them.
Mm-hmm. You basically need a wall.
No, I mean I needed a wall just to take their first settlement, man. Mm-hmm. So I get it, you know, and especially their late game armies. I was fighting their lower tier units, you know, and still having that problem. And
nothing, like literally nothing, can kill Grombrindle as the greenskins. I swear to God. I just have to wait until like army losses took the rest of his army for him to like fuck off, because I could never ever get him. Not with like Grom and a Black Arc Big Boss like double teaming him. Not with like constantly spirit leeching and having him bogged down. Like just he doesn't die.
That's annoying as hell, man.
Yeah, I hate the White Dwarf.
Yeah, I remember you were mentioning, and I heard the same rumor that they're eventually going to give him his own unique starting position, but maybe that'll be with the next DLC. I don't know.
Yeah, it might be when they like, depending on what the next DLC, if it's like Dwarves versus Skaven, which most people seem to think it's going to be. Yeah, it might be. Well, I know they're like looking at moving him, but I don't know where it would be, because it's kind of one of those characters. It's like, where do you really put him, considering he just is known to pop up in random places and then leave when he's done?
Yeah. Yeah, my money is on the Skaven and Dwarf DLC. It just seems to make sense.
Yeah.
CA loves Skaven, and they're almost done. So
I'd kind of like to see him get something like Nakai, where he's like part of the actual faction, but he's more of like a horde, like a moving, just like helping the dwarves out kind of thing.
You know, it would be cool if instead of one faction that he was like creating everywhere, like if he, every time like you could only do it with Karax, like any Karak, if you went there, you could like liberate it. Yeah. And a new like some sort of sub faction from the dwarves would be there, and they, you know, pay tribute or whatever.
Yeah, kind of like with the Empire, you could like return it to the like original owners, sort of thing.
Yeah, and that way you're wandering, you know, dwarf army that's just trying to restore all the fallen Karaks, because there's a bunch that are just all initially even held by the greenskins. So you know.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Listen up, CA. We got ideas.
So how did you go after you were taking out the dwarves, and like how did the initial invasion of Ulthaun go?
The very initial one, right? My first go around on the Vortex campaign, like I said, short and sweet, got bogged down in the Southlands fighting Khemri. Eventually did take them, and it took me like a freaking 100 turns to make it to Ulthaun. No word of a lie. And that's in the Vortex campaign. It's not far away. My second campaign, also the Last Defenders were really fucking causing me some problems, man. I could not put a greenskin army together that was good enough or designed in a way to fight the lizardmen. So I was not having good luck with that. Let's just put it that way.
The greenskins really struggle from anti-large.
Yeah, I mean, if I had the the ingredient to make my archers anti-large at the time, which I don't think I did, it would have been a different story because you watch those health bars on dragons drop like crazy.
Yeah,
it's a good feeling, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. They struggle against anti-large, and source warriors are tough, as we all know.
Yes.
But my second campaign, I lucked out, took out Imrik pretty much at the same speed I did the first time.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I took out Imrik, the dwarves finally got around to declaring war on me. That's when they started kind of pushing back up north and taking a minor settlement here and there. The last defenders started losing against Queek, thank God. Got a non-aggression pact with Queek when he was like kind of not powerful.
Right.
So I kind of negated that. Queek never went back on his word. I think he's having problems of his own, but he's doing okay.
Yeah.
Cetra, I immediately got non-aggression and what is it?
Military access.
Military access, and we eventually got a defensive alliance. He has conquered almost all of the Southlands. Like,
yeah, he did really well.
Yeah, he did really well this time. He's pushing pretty far south. So from there, I went up to that small Galbaraz and Gorgazon, the two places that exist. Yeah, in the Badlands. Yeah. Took those two. I shot across to Sartosa. I got into actually a couple big naval fights at this time when I was in the ocean. You're already at war with Eltharion. Attain declared war on me while I was in the middle. So I had to fight one whole army that was led by God, what's his name? The lead
or Tyrion.
Tyrion. I had to fight one army led by Tyrion, which I did okay on, and then immediately I ran into not Eltharion himself, but he had like another army come out of nowhere in the ocean, and I had to fight them too. So I was pretty beat the fuck up by the time I got close to Sartosa.
Right.
So I had a non-aggression pact with Sartosa, but I was like, fuck him. I need replenishment.
Yeah.
So I landed on Sartosa and just started raiding it for like 5 or 6 turns. It might have even been longer because I was like, I can't land on Ulthaun with like half strength. I'm gonna get wiped out.
Yeah, exactly.
So I sent my agent ahead to Shrine of Loek, which is in like the southeast part,
right.
And I named him Mr. Stabby because the Goblin Big Boss agents, they just keep referring to themselves as Mr. Stabby. So I was just like, this is Mr. Stabby. The one I got after him was Little Stabby. But Mr. Stabby was locking it down, making sure I could land in Shrine of Loek when the time was right. And eventually I saw an opening, shot over there. My butthole was tightened up the whole time because I did it in forced march. And I was like, it's like I will go almost an entire campaign without doing forced march. And the one time I do it, because I'm like, oh, I'm safe now. All of a sudden, 2 armies come out of nowhere. And it's like, I've lost legendary campaigns many times that I've attempted by forced march when I think I'm okay, and no, I'm not. So even though I bullied the crap out of Sartosa and just stole a bunch of money from them, they never declared war on me. I think it was just they're having problems of their own. They would like take one of Eltharion's cities or both of them, and then they would lose them. So they were in a very give and take with Eltharion already.
Right.
So it kind of benefited me there. Once I landed, though, I immediately secured, Southern Yvresse? Yeah. In no time at all, I took Southern Yvresse. I tried to take some of the minor settlements of like the main Tora Yvresse province, but I was having trouble because Tyrion came back with a vengeance. So I needed my primary army to basically face off against Lothern down in that western edge, and I dedicated my backup army to keeping Eltharion from coming south. And those were battles that I would sometimes lose, but I was doing enough damage with my secondary armies to keep Eltharion from really making a push to take that territory back.
Right.
From there, it was pretty awesome. It felt good to have a foothold on Ulthaun, that like an entire province secured. It was a delicate balance because Eltharion was always putting the pressure on. Tyrion had to be fucking dealt with. But once I sacked Lothern, I got a ridiculous amount of money. Like I was getting crazy amounts of money anyway from all the sacking. Like I was just sacking and then occupying.
Yeah.
And sacking Lothern gave me such an ungodly amount of money. I immediately bought and stacked out another army. So I had like, as soon as I sacked Lothern, I had 3 armies, popped a Wa. I know I popped a Wa right around that time. And I was like a fucking god at that point. Like 340 stacks.
Yeah.
I have all of the inside of Ulthaun right now. Actually, what's his name? Count Noctilus just took one of the unicorn, one of the gates for me because he's walking around with a goddamn doom stack of Necrofex Colossus, and I have no army. Yeah, I have no armies near him. I eventually declared a war on Nagorond and the Cult of Pleasure because they started taking territories in the north, doing very well.
Right.
And I wanted the Shrine of Cain because I thought I could give the Sword of Cain to Grom. But
oh my god!
I know I wanted to give it to him so bad, but he won't take it. So don't think you can do it.
Oh.
Yeah, but I knew I was gonna go to war with the Dark Elves eventually. Like we were running out of Ulthawan to take. Honestly, like everybody was gone except Eltharion, literally, and all he had was Toribras. But somehow he was still holding out, and so that's what I had to go up and look online around like turn 126. I think I looked up. I'm like, I need to know how to get the last ingredients. Maybe it was 125, and that's when I looked up how to get 2 easy access ingredients. Like one was you have to put one of your heroes on a boar, and I like my Black Orc big bosses on foot. I think their stats are just crazy on foot, so it's like why put them on a mount? So I never did that. Then I needed to recruit a regular Arachnarok spider, get the spider silk. And then that's when because you have to complete 12 Grom's recipes to unlock the final battle with Eltharion.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that a little bit later because we haven't even covered the first quest battle, although there's not too much to say about it. You fight Skarsnik, so you get bonus to ambushing, like right in the beginning when you do that first. Yeah. But taking Ulthaun was, like I said, I don't know why, but beating up the High Elves, like they gave me good fights, man. Like they were giving me proper fights very quickly. I had close calls, Arcane Phoenixes coming out the ass, Moondragon armies. Before when we'd mentioned like if we had like a battle that felt like a quest battle, I had so many, man. I had to like take breaks and step away from my computer because I was like one crazy battle after another. Yeah. And I was just like, at one point I was like, I wasn't sweating, man, but I was like, it was pretty intense. Like, it was just such an aggressive campaign. I didn't seem to be suffering from public order penalties because I just had so much damn money. I would just immediately, build boss shacks or boss camps or whatever, like everywhere I was going. So I didn't really have to stop. I was just constantly moving through Ulthawan at a certain point.
And with growth bonuses, you can kind of just pop it off or like just build a growth building to get yourself there a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and I mean, like when I sacked Lothern, it only took it down to tier 4, and then when I occupied it, it stayed at tier 4. Like, so there were these big cities there that even after sacking them and occupying them, they were still, level 4 at least, or 3, and like you said, with all the growth bonuses, it shoots up pretty quick, and money was not an issue. Like after I sacked Lothern, money was never an issue after that.
Yeah, like my turn income was very low for the most part, but I think right now on my second Mortal Empires campaign, I'm like approaching 1 million.
Oh wow!
like some of the dwarven cities you can sack. Like I don't even know. Like Krazakarak with bonuses. Like the lord I sacked it with had bonuses to sacking, and I got like 40 or 50 grand from like what, like just that one.
All of those zeros.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, holy shit! Like how much? Like, yeah, I'm gonna take that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When I saw the sack value on Lothar, and I was just like, "Excuse me."
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm. Yeah, I've never invaded Ulthaun before. Like I've played as Etain before, Tyrion. I never finished that campaign, but I've played like the unifying aspect of it. I mean, we did Eltharion,
exactly.
So. But as far as invading it, I've never invaded Ulthaun before, and it was kind of fun. Fucking with them high elves, because I really don't like the high elves. Like personally, I don't mind playing as them, but like I don't know. I enjoy fighting against them.
Yeah.
And then also, like I told you, on the campaign map, you're actually chopping down all the trees. So when I took what's her name? The Averlorn? Is that the faction?
Alariel.
Alariel, yeah. Like all of her forests that are up there, it's just a barren wasteland now.
No,
like
shit.
Just some random trees sticking up. But yeah, it was satisfying to take him down a peg or two. Fighting dark elves is tough, though. I'll tell you that much. Especially all gold chevron armies.
I never had to, because I was like, I mean, first of all, I didn't have that much interaction with them, but when I did go sail to Ulthaun, Malekith was having an invasion going on in the north of Ulthaun, and I was just like, I don't care what you take, I just don't want to deal with you. I don't think that would be a matchup I could win very much. Like excessive armor piercing range units and like large units, there's just no answer from the greenskins, so it was not a fight I wanted to take.
No, the problem is I can win any, like, because Grom has been the main one, like really the only successful army against them.
Right.
But I can lightning strike and I can win. But after that lightning strike, because they own everything almost. You know, the Cult of Pleasure and Naggarond almost own everything, and I can win a fight, but I'll be too damaged to go into another fight. You know, and so if I continued this campaign, you know, I get that attitude that I could beat them back, but it's going to be a long fight of pushing and pulling, and also kind of hoping that Clan Pestilence. I don't know what they're up to. I know they've conquered. I wish I could reveal the map to see how well they're doing, but I know they've taken out a fair number of the lizard men in the Lustria, and they're doing. Let me see. Kind of bring up. I don't think I've Clan Pestilence. They own 63 settlements, and they're strength rank 1 right now.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I have 63 settlements. They're doing all right. I have not made contact with them. Yes, Grok's gone nuts, man.
That's crazy.
So he's doing well for himself. So it would be interesting to see maybe if I could hold out against Naggarond long enough, just naturally he would go after them, because just moving up Lustria into those territories. So who knows? Yeah. Not to mention, Cetra is actually starting to fight Naggarond now. Like I see one of his navies is up by Ulthaun at the moment. I mean, he's running out of properties in the Southland to take other than mine. So,
how did you find the gathering of ingredients to go?
I never purposely went out of my way until the very end. I just kept playing. And whenever I saw the River Troll Hag, my initial reaction would be to buy the ingredient. Like I would check what ingredients I had, and if I didn't have that ingredient, I would buy it. Like that was what I would always do. And then occasionally, I think I robbed her maybe like 2 or 3 times just because there was nothing I could do. And then I did the quest. I started doing the quests for her eventually. Like one quest, I could not fucking figure out what she wanted from me, so I just asked for a different quest, and then I was able to get the 4th spot unlocked.
Yeah, because there's one where she's like, I want mucky stuff. And you're like, okay, I made something with mucky stuff. And he's like, no, I don't like it. Because you have to make like a special something that requires 3 ingredients. So it's like one of those special ones that changes based on like the 3rd ingredient.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure it out. I was like, I gave you so much mucky stuff. I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah, she wanted something with flying goblins, so I was like, let's put the wings in there with the goblin meat and some other thing. And I was like, I don't know what you want.
Yeah, I think I got all the ingredients. There's one I know I didn't get, and it was because beastmen never survive, and that's the Centaur milk.
Oh yeah, never got that.
I don't know how to do it other than like hope that Kazrak survives and also ends up over there.
And with Centaurs.
Yeah, exactly.
I did fight like at least one beastman army, but they had 0 Centaurs in it.
Yeah.
It was all. Yeah.
I was
they had Cygors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was hoping the hag had it, but she never did. I was like, okay, I guess I'm not getting this. I hope it's not required for any unlocks, because that would be rough.
I never got lizard legs because I never fought the last defenders in this one.
Okay.
I never got ectoplasm because I didn't fight any vampires in this one. Let's see. I didn't sack a dwarf settlement. I just occupied it. I should have done that to get the stunty ale.
So yeah, that was pretty important.
Yeah, there's. I never got ocean clams because it says sail or explore the sea or sack a Bretonian settlement. And once I landed in Ulthaun, I had no time for sailing. It was just taking Ulthaun.
It sounds like the ingredients are a lot harder to get in Vortex.
No, I mean, some of them are easy. Like I got the dragon tail right away because I think you get that by fighting a dragon. And Imrik's right there and an easy target. Yeah. So I got that pretty early on. And then it's up to what the virtual hag gives you. You know, sometimes you get lucky and you get a tough ingredient.
Yeah, I was just hoping for like sailing ones because I didn't want to like one of them's like stacking a Norskin settlement. And I was like, I'm not doing that. Like that's so far. You only send a bunch of goblins on a ship to go fight like marauders.
I mean, I would imagine. Like I keep saying, maybe when I'm on my vacation, I'll try and do a long victory for Mortal Empires campaign. Just force myself to do it.
Yeah, just do it, yeah.
But I can see Grom being probably pretty straightforward. Like Mortal Empires focus on taking Ulthaun first, and then securing that, then kind of spread out to the rest of the world. You know, maybe.
Yeah, I kind of did the opposite because I took over basically all the Badlands and I mean almost every mountain except for like the Spine of Sotek in Lestria. Like I didn't go over there at all, but other than that, every like mountainous region I had, and it made it a lot easier to go to Ulthaun after, but it was also like 120 some turns in.
Well, also you don't want the high elves to get those late tier units.
Exactly.
They started doing a lot better later on, especially Eltharion, because I left him kind of to the end.
Yeah.
His Mistwalker units were very, very powerful by that point.
Yeah, the Knights of Torgaval were such like the only thing that stopped me from having like a decisive victory in the final battle.
Really?
Yeah, they just wouldn't die. Like I was like, I don't have an answer for this. Like there's just nothing I can do.
Those are the ones that are flying on those like green griffins, right?
Yeah, it's like the Griffin Riders. Yeah.
Even their Silverin Guard were very resistant to my archers at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Staunch line of spears, man. Every time. Where did that come from? Was it just the comment that he had in his comment section or something?
I think like it's mentioned in the lore or like the tabletop, like one of the descriptions that high elves prefer to like that's usually how they enter battles, like a staunch line of spears or like they rely on it or something like that. And I think it got like compared to his like cheesy tactics. So people were just like roasting him about it. Yeah.
That's funny. I get it now. I get it.
Yeah, I don't know if I totally understand it, but yeah, it was pretty funny.
So yeah, is there anything you want to tell me about your campaign? Like Did it sounds like you kind of just took over the Badlands by default when you incorporated them?
Yeah, like I did get the Badlands for free by confederating Grimgor, but I did have to retake a lot of the World's Edge Mountains, and I did eventually like totally beat. Well, okay, like you remember when we were playing Malice, and I got super upset because Karak Azul got confederated right before I was able to wipe them out. Yeah. The same thing kind of happened. I had Karazar crack down to one settlement in like the far north mountains there. And then they confederated the Greybeards prospectors in like the bottom of the fucking desert. And I was just like, oh my god, I just want to destroy this faction like just once. Like, please.
Those motherfuckers.
Like I drove them out of their home. Like I have Karazar crack like full of gobos, and yeah, it was just so infuriating that right before I defeat them, they're like, haha, now we have this mountain range over here, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm not gonna go deal with that.
That's pretty funny.
Oh my god. Fucking dwarfs, man. Killing me.
Damn stunties.
Yeah.
That's funny, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to war with the Empire? It sounds like you're on like the cusp of invading the Empire.
I tried it to. Okay, so this is what happened. I tried to avoid war with them. Like I didn't raid them. I didn't attack any of their settlements because I just like didn't want to fuck with them because they can spam armies like no one else.
Yeah, that's
because like Reichland is pretty easy to play as because you like. I mean, you end up with a territory like a whole province right away, but the AI gets it like as of turn 1. They have like an entire province with 4 settlements, and they just like explode from there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Reichland right now is so fucking powerful. And like, it's not even that their armies separate are really powerful. It's just like they have so many and they run around in groups of 2s. And also fucking rocket batteries will absolutely annihilate any greenskin thing. So, yeah, I tried to avoid them until what happened was I had pretty much taken all the territory I wanted with the mountains and the Badlands being mine. So I started to move some of my armies back to towards Massive Oracle so that I could go invade Ulthaun. And a couple of times I ended up like raiding on their land, like just encamping and raiding, or like just trespassing from using Underway. And eventually it built up enough that they declared war. And now that my armies had pulled out, they just kind of steamrolled everything that was close while I was like running over to Ulthaun because I was just like, fuck it, I want to finish this campaign. So I just went anyway and let them take whatever they wanted because it's not like I was going to like run out of money. I was just like, all right, fucker, like I don't care.
Yeah.
And yeah, like some of the battles I could have won, but I was like, I don't feel like dealing with a rocket battery for this like one minor settlement. Like it's just not worth it at this point. Just my time.
No, I understand, especially when you've expanded that far. There were definitely some territories maybe I could, or battles I could have fought better against, like the Cult of Pleasure. But I was just like, fuck it. I was like, this isn't the important fights. Like, at a certain point, I was like, I was telling my wife, I was like, again, it was like, I just got to get this done. I was having a very good time doing it, but I was just like, I can't focus on all these little battles.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if I hadn't screwed up so bad on the first one, I might have just been able to like finish it the way I wanted to. But I was getting into the last couple of days there, and I was like, okay. I gotta like actually fight the high elves.
Yeah, what Grom wants to do, or whatever.
Because otherwise, there's no revenge at all.
No. Speaking of revenge, do you want to get into the first quest battle?
Yeah.
So this one is to get Grom's axe. Let me see if I can pull it up.
The real Grom's axe.
The real Grom's axe. You hear about another goblin somewhere who's talking about how big he is, and he's doing a lot of chin waggling or something, however Grom describes it. And this upsets Grom because he's obviously the biggest.
Mm-hmm.
And if he also happens to have the real axe of Grom, then he'll go and take it back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those quest battles where it could be challenging. Like having your opening army should be powerful enough for it. I've done it. You just make sure you have enough archers to take out the giant, because the giant will go down quickly under archer fire.
Mm-hmm.
They've got an Arachnarok spider. Yeah, they definitely have at least one.
Yeah, I think it comes in late, but yeah.
Yeah, it comes in a little later, so hopefully, you have enough archers left over to deal with it. They got some trolls that will cause you a problem.
Mm-hmm.
A Doom Diver catapult out in the middle of nowhere that will kind of wait, but it will engage you eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did it on Legendary. I didn't do it right away because it involves, in the Vortex campaign, you moving an agent up to... it's like one of the territories that usually the Bretonnians capture.
Okay.
El Haik? Xandri. You have to move the unit to Xandri.
Yeah.
So I was using my agent mainly to make sure I wasn't going to use the underway and pop up in some place, like you mentioned, deadly.
Right.
Yeah, it's good to have an agent just around there, just to see where you're gonna stick your head up.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely had a close to beginning army. I don't know how you activate it in the Mortal Empires, but I'm sure it's similar. But you end up fighting Skarsnik and some other goblin big boss, and hey, you get Skarsnik's trait, which gives you bonuses to ambushing. So
I find it funny that the enemy lord who's like saying he's the biggest gobbo in it is just like a normal like gobbo war boss, but they've upped the model proportions, so he is like bigger. But he's just like, it's really funny just to look at because it looks so fucking weird because it's just like the same proportions but larger.
I didn't even notice that. I thought he just because he's wearing the hat.
I only saw it on the second one. I was just like, oh my god, that's so funny.
Yeah, so a little goblin thinks he's a little bit bigger, but that's enough to make him a big boss amongst goblins. You got to put him in his place. Like I said, there's nothing really too special about the quest battle. It's just you go in there, you have some reinforcements that just show up late in the battle. The enemy has some reinforcements, but I had so little trouble with that first quest battle. I couldn't really there's not much to say about it.
It's quite easy. Yeah,
it's just a battle, against some other greenskins, which on the Vortex campaign, you're not fighting other greenskins until you get to the Savage Orcs up north.
Right.
And that's not even a guarantee. They might be wiped out before you get there. So fighting other greenskins is something unique, at least at the time. But very straightforward, very easy. It gets you the Axe of Grom, which +5 growth in all provinces on top of all your WA bonuses. So that's even more growth. 40 armor piercing damage, bonus versus infantry, and the awesome ability Axe of Grom, which sunders enemy armor and also just buffs up your weapon even more. So it's a great friggin' weapon to have. It lets you...
It also lowers Grom's armor, though.
I thought it lowered the enemy's armor. I don't see anything here about lowering your own armor, unless that's what it means.
Yeah, there's like a negative to it. It's like you sunder their armor, but you also lose. It's something like that.
Okay, but I wish these stats would be clearer sometimes because I can never tell if they mean me or them.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, either way, it's still pretty powerful. You've got regeneration, so it doesn't even fucking matter. Just don't get caught in that trap that Eltharion can set, because you can die if you get stuck in one place.
Yeah.
Enough sisters of Averlorn solve any problems. Let's be real here. There is no other quest battle other than the final quest battle that's on the Vortex campaign. But you do get the Lucky Banner, which Niblet carries, as is standard bearer. Gives you 20% magic item drop chance, post battle chance of stealing a magic item, 10% ward save, melee defense +1. How lucky! So you get a whopping 1 melee defense added on. Your ability Lucky Banner is really good because the way I was using Grom, sometimes I would get dogpiled by a bunch of cavalry that would lock him down, and then you just pop Lucky Banner and you get a bunch of melee attack and damage resistance on top of whatever ward saves and armor you're currently equipped. So if you get stuck somewhere that's in a danger zone, the Lucky Banner will keep you alive long enough to maybe get you out of there. He's very focused on luck. Like Niblet was a lucky night goblin, so he liked him. I don't know.
Yeah. Take signs from Mork very seriously.
Yeah. I don't know. You wanna? It's up to you. Where we're kind of at is either we move into the final battle, or if there's anything else. I mean, we can come up with some other general questions about the campaign, but unless there's something else you'd like to share about the campaign, like I said, mine was basically high elves, all the way, and they're, let's talk about kind of matchups. Maybe after. Can we just talk about the final quest battle, and then we'll go into some other general things. Did you get to play the final quest battle?
Yeah, I played it this morning just to experience it. Yeah,
I mean that's kind of different because I don't know. Let me see what kind of units the game gives you, because I don't know. Like I know what I went in there with, and I went in there stacked.
It's a bunch of black orcs, like orc biggins, very like 2 units of night goblin archers, some trolls, a rogue idol, and a biggin, and like 2 pump wagons and a wyvern or something like that. Oh, and 2 doom divers, and that's pretty much it. Besides Grom and the Fishy Tiddlemuncha.
So now we're on the other end of this quest battle. We saw it from one side from Eltharion, and it was incredibly desperate. Like I kept saying, hammering home the whole time. It was very down to the wire. This time, I steamrolled Eltharion. I don't know how it felt like in the quest battle when you don't bring your own army in.
It was easy. Like there's an ally force that goes first.
You've got like 2 backup armies.
Yeah, like I didn't really have to do anything. All I did was keep my troops out of the like straight line of fire and just like flanked while the like backup, like the allied army, just kind of like full rush and put ladders up and jumped on. Like I just kind of went where no one else was and came around and took them from the back. Yeah, it's quite easy, and that's when there is no like picking. Like that's just what the game gave me, and I was like, oh, that was like very easy.
Yeah, I mean, I like it because they give you a special ability that it's like a Doom Diver catapult ability where you click somewhere and it's almost like a Black Arc attack. Honestly, a bunch of Doom Divers plummet out of the sky and do a considerable amount of damage, like either on a tower or a wall.
Yeah.
So what I did was I'd use my catapults because in Grom's army I still had I didn't even have Doom Diver catapults. I still had the Rock Lava, or I had one Rock Lava and the Regiment of Loun one.
Yeah.
Right now. So I'd do a little bit of damage on the wall, and then I'd use that special ability. And since the AI usually waits until the wall is at about like 50% before it runs off of it, you could do like 25% or a little bit more with your Rock Lavas, and then you'd use that ability, and it would just knock out the wall from underneath them and totally wipe out the entire unit.
Yeah, that's pretty smart.
Oh yeah, you could take out a whole archer unit in just one go.
It's like the Val's Hammer ability from the High Elves,
which I've never seen in action yet.
But, you never used that?
No, I've never used it. I think isn't that the right where you get a special item when you use it?
Yes, it's a yeah, you perform like the rite and you get 2 uses, and it'll basically like nuke a section of wall or like a tower.
Yeah, see, whenever I use that right, I've used it for the item, and I've just randomly never gotten into a siege. I think when I've had that right activated.
Oh, I see.
But I don't play high elves often. The only time I did was Eltharion. That was the first complete, and then Imrik is gonna be.
Well, yeah,
so
you're about to play him again.
I'm still excited for Imrik, man. I like, yeah. We'll get into that, but it was. The problem with the quest battle was the AI puts almost all of its troops at the gates.
Yes.
And once you get through one section of the gates, and like you said, you flank around or just punch a hole on one side and get that flank on the others, there's not a whole lot they have left. I know Eltharion's kind of waiting at like the top kind of area that leads into the tower. But he's got some of those knights, the the Knights of Torvres or the
Torgabal or something like
Torgabal, yeah, the Knights of Torgabal. So he's got some flying units that are pretty elite. But by the time he committed, I had basically wiped out his ground troops.
Yeah.
You know, it was pretty. See, that's what I mean. I don't know if they should have made it more difficult, because it was almost too easy. But I was like, damn, like I understand why the fight was so hard on my end.
Yeah.
Because that quest battle was hard. Like I said, I lost almost everybody in that quest fight.
Yeah, it would be hard to make both sides be really hard. I was pretty disappointed that it was that easy, but I'm not like I don't know what I could have done other than like change the entire way the AI works, or like make holding the walls viable.
Well, that's the problem though. I think the way they should have, it's not like you have to do too much program from the AI if you just want like say to keep a unit of silver and guard like stationed somewhere.
Yeah.
And like archers behind them. Like they should have staggered the defenses more. Or maybe it was just the way I did it. Like I said, when I was knocking out these walls, I would take out a whole unit almost every time I'd knock out a section of wall with the power you got. So maybe if I didn't maximize that, but even still, I saw what the AI was doing. They were all up front. Nobody was kind of using the other traps in the city. Everybody was at the wall, or they're all in the back with Eltharion kind of as his bodyguard. So
yeah, even like the allied force that goes ahead of you, like they're gonna need some help, but they'll pretty much take out everything on the walls by themselves. Like you don't really have to worry about it too much.
No, I mean they were getting beat the hell up. They weren't going to lose, but they were definitely taking like I could, if I was by myself, like with just my army, and I took those losses, I probably would lose.
Yeah,
just by not having enough numbers. But
right,
yeah, like you said, you let them charge head on, and you can worry about getting around. And
and then you just have to worry about Eltharion's goon squad with like the knights and a couple eagles, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, just make sure you have those archers close by, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little disappointing, but I don't know, it was satisfying. I'm not gonna say it wasn't satisfying.
Yeah, it's a nice conclusion at the very least.
Yeah, and they, like I said, they were the last high elf faction. I don't know if the AI was avoiding destroying them, but they were fighting against Aranessa's Salt Spite. He was constantly fighting her because she was constantly taking a town or losing a town to him. And then Malekith was coming in from the north.
Right.
And it was really just me who was causing him to, like, I was keeping him in check. I think he would have expanded a lot more had I not been there to constantly either. I would sometimes lose an army to him, but even when I did, he was not he couldn't take the city, or, it was just enough to keep him there.
It's kind of nice from like attacking Ulthaun point of view, because usually Tyrion confederates everyone, and like sometimes Alariel's okay, like sometimes she'll survive and stay independent. so they'll kind of split it. But for the most part, from what I've seen in every campaign since the update, it's either it's basically like half and half, attain and egress.
Huh.
Which is kind of nice.
Yeah, it is.
It's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, I had a Lariel get confederated by Attain. Like, I hadn't even fought against her yet. I was about to attack my first settlement of Alariels, and then she confederated with the Attain. And I was like, oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't make a difference. I just wanted to, I don't know, say I fought their armies more. How did you feel? How did you feel about the matchup between the Greenskins and the High Elves?
Like, it really depended on what the High Elves brought. Like I said, when they brought like a bunch of Phoenixes, it sucked because like I couldn't do anything about it other than like just like goon them out by putting a bunch of units and trapping them down.
Or if you had if you did like the all archer spam and did the checkerboard, that would be perfect for them. But like I brought a balanced army, and it sounds, and I'm pretty sure you did too. And the too many arcane phoenixes, man. I cannot cast that many vortex spells accurately. Like, no, I can.
Yeah, and you don't have like Tempest or anything like specifically for high units. Like, you don't have. I mean, really, like, there's no magic to use in that sort of situation other than like Soul Blight or like Itchy Nuisance from the Goblin Shamans. Like, yeah, there's just not a whole lot you can do as a faction about that. When they brought like a bunch of infantry, it was not that hard, but yeah, I definitely relied on superior numbers for every single battle with the High Elves.
Yeah, I liked using my the pump wagons to go after their archers in the rear. Like, was always what would go over there, because even if they had what do you call them, the Sea Guard. Your pump wagons would still hold up to them, especially if they're upgraded. Yeah, they'd still win that fight, or at least just totally keep them occupied.
Yeah, exactly.
Fight the whole time. There's Silver and Guard. Like, when I actually started fighting Eltharion more, like right before I did it, like before his quest battles, when I was just fighting him to keep him in his place.
Yeah.
His Mistwalker units, like the Silver and Guard, like how I said those were like my favorite unit. They were pretty tough. Like,
they're strong, yeah.
Yeah, they would. I don't know, if I couldn't get my archers to engage theirs, or the pump wagons to get around, or I was taking considerable losses, like enough to. It's a good thing they finally fixed the casualty replenishment rate on the Greenskins. Yeah. Man, if you get the recipe right again, dude, it takes like 2 turns to go back to max. Like,
yeah, like you can hit 50% pretty quick.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It's much nicer, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have the edge on that now, and I mean probably more specifically just with Grom, because of all the options you have with your recipe book. Let me say the matchup with the Greenskins. Like I said, I had like 2 major battles with him my first Vortex campaign, and I lost them both. So I was running into that problem where I wasn't learning fast enough, and I wasn't making an army just for fighting a Lizardman army. I don't know if I even had the options for it at that time.
Yeah.
Fighting Count Noctilus in his fucking doom stack of Necrofex Colossus. He's just wandering around sacking my settlements right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I'm too busy with the Cult of Pleasure and Nagarond to deal with it. So, but I have fought the Vampire Coast at some other point when they had a normal army, and I wiped them out. It seemed like a very good matchup, at least what I was going up against. Really, the most difficult I've had has been against the Dark Elves. They've got that really powerful cavalry. The Cold One Knights. They will fuck up my Ragnarok Spider on top of their armor-piercing missile fire. They are tough.
Yeah, I just knew I was not going to do well in that one, so I just didn't even bother.
They've got a lot more offensive spells. I feel like the High Elves really didn't hit me with too much magic. But the Dark Elves, man, they hit me with magic constantly.
Yeah, which is weird because I like you'd think they'd hire like archmages, but yeah, I just had like prince and princesses and I think maybe one heavens mage, but I think I took care of her before she even casted anything at me. And Ulthaun wasn't like dropping spells all over.
Yeah, now that you mentioned it, there were, I don't know if it was a heavens mage, but I did go up against like sieges where they did have a mage, but like the mage they would have would be like one of those direct damage spells, or maybe not direct, it'd be a projectile spell that would target, just Grom. Yeah. And it was like, oh, wow, you did a little bit of damage and now it's going away, So there was none of that, I don't know. I didn't run into anything too devastating until the Dark Elves. They're tough. Yeah, Dark Elves are tough, man. Anyway, did you have any other matchups? I mean, late game dwarf armies can't be easy, but it sounds like you're beating the shit out of them.
Yeah, like once I kind of took Razak Rock in the surrounding area, it was a lot easier because I think they just lost a lot of ability to recruit higher tier units. Because I never found.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's a good strategy.
I never found Azag to like confederate or even like see where it was. Like he got wiped out, but I think it was shortly before I got there, like up into the north there, because it showed someone as holding that territory, and it wasn't the dwarves for a while. So I'm pretty sure it was not. Like they had just newly settled there, where I'd pushed them into. So I think they lost a lot of ability to like spam really good armies because they were just bringing like minor spam. Like the worst I went up with was like occasional slayers, like, and that was just a pain in the ass because you have to kill them all and gobos aren't super great at that. So it was like, yeah, like the only annoying thing was like pieces of artillery, but they weren't bringing like high end stuff for that either.
That's good.
I think I just kind of like got them before they got too powerful.
Yeah, I did a little bit of a Thorgrim Grudge Bearer, like maybe like a week ago. Like I just did a couple hours, and man, the Green Tide, I kind of just quit because I was like, if we're gonna do this, I'm gonna do it for the show because it was looking pretty ridiculous. Like you said, Grimgor confederates almost all the Southlands in no time at all.
Yeah,
and it was pretty terrifying.
Yeah. And like it's always been kind of like that. Like you just get the initial province and let the bloody spears like throw a couple armies at you. But I think it's way worse now because it just got like waves of greenskins for the first 20-30 turns.
You really can't leave that province. Like no. I was trying to, but you can't. It's crazy.
You just got to build walls everywhere.
Yep. Wall turtle up. That's what dwarves are good at.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm looking for it. Man, if they do a dwarf DLC campaign, it would make me even more excited. Like,
that'd be sweet.
Yeah. Anyway, forget. Would you recommend this, or what would you recommend? Tell somebody to kind of encourage them to play the greenskins, since I know greenskins have a bad rap. They have for a long time. Is there anything you can say in their favor, I guess?
It's a nice change of pace. I don't know. I don't think people need much of a motivation right now with them just getting a brand new update. I'd just say they have a lot more playability. They're a lot more flexible, and there's a bunch of different ways you can play them. But
yeah, let's not forget the scrap mechanic that lets you further customize, your armies.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say that the Mortal Empires is a lot of fun simply because you can kind of do whatever you want. Like
you cause so much chaos.
Yeah, like you can go and like go straight to Ulthaun and have a good time there. You can just like fuck around with Bretonnia. You could like go raid the Empire if you really wanted to and relive Grom's glory days. You can do what I did and like go and try and take all the Badlands and the World's Edge Mountains and like just fight stunties for 100 turns. It's probably one of the best like campaigns in terms of replayability because you can just do a lot of different things.
How do you feel about him as a legendary lord? Like I guess in combat and campaign.
I mean, if we're like ranking him, probably like a 7, because he just doesn't boost anything except like goblins. But in terms of like actual combat, he's really, really solid.
Yeah, his combat animations are really good. I like watching him. I don't know. He's not too bad. Regeneration is always a good thing.
Yeah.
And strictly on the campaign with those. See, with all the mechanics he has, I have to give him like a 9 out of 10. Maybe that's just because I'm biased, but I mean, come on, if with all of those food mechanics and some of the crazy abilities you can combine, like 4 ingredients, like you can make your perfectly blended, like power up basically. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I give Grom a 9 out of 10. For he's not the best in combat, but he's not the worst. He's not the best in campaign, but he's not the worst. But it's all of his things that go in his favor: the WA mechanic, Black Orc big bosses, all the new units, the campaign themselves. Mortal Empires, definitely check that out. I'd like to go back to it. Archer is right. You've got all this freedom. It's really all up how Mork and Gork feel that day, or Grom, or whatever.
Yeah.
Vortex is definitely more focused. I did like the Vortex campaign, trying to make the push for Ulthaun. And it takes a while because on the Vortex campaign, Ulthaun is a lot bigger, and I did like that. But yeah, check him out. I mean, it's a great campaign. And finally, what makes Grom the Paunch so renowned and feared?
I mean, yeah, like the last two have been like really easy answers just because they've already done like super badass things. Like Grom's literally had one of the most, if not the most successful WAs. Like he went toe to toe with the Empire and the Dwarves and Bretonnia and just like kicked them all into the ground. And he needed a like ocean storm to like defeat him because that was the only thing getting in his way.
Yeah, it sounds like he led the biggest WA like in history, the most immense. Across
the
immensity. But yeah, he fucked up the whole world. Nobody could stop him. It was not until a combination of the ocean took out most of his WA.
Yeah.
And then Altharion kind of taken out his shaman. Like if he didn't show up and decapitate old Blacktooth, it would have been all over for Ulthaun. And until then, I don't think he suffered a single defeat. Not since the Battle of the Belly. His only other defeat was at Tor Evres.
Is Battle of the Belly really a defeat though? He's not dead.
I mean, prior to the Battle of the Belly.
Oh, I see. I was like,
because we don't know if he was ever like in a like whatever fights or was before that. Yeah. So since the Battle of the Belly, never lost a fight until Tor Evres.
Yeah.
He's a goblin of such immensity. and he's everything a gobbo looks up to and wants to aspire to be. And like you said, he's very successful. He was being helped out by Blacktooth, a shaman who was definitely giving him the edge strategically, because really all he did was care about eating and basking in all of his loot. So he's not the most self-motivated goblin. But he makes up for that for being an incredible fighter, and very difficult to destroy, as he's survived through so much. Yeah, he's one of a kind.
He's one of a kind.
Yeah,
never change, Grom.
Nah, never change. And Niblet too. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
Anyway, is there anything else we should cover? We've been going on here for a little while now.
Yeah, I think I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I had a good time. This was definitely. I'm not trying to sound overly positive, but this has probably been the easiest campaign for me to stay on track Like I just kept feeling myself being pulled back to it very naturally.
Just a big green skin guy.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed Khemri. That was a great campaign too. I really enjoyed that. But Broken Axe, I was just having too much fun killing high elves. Yeah. Yeah. All right. If next in 2 weeks from now, we will be covering Imrik. What's his full title? I just keep calling him Imrik, like he's my best friend.
Caledor, I guess.
Yeah, Imrik from Caledor, the Dragon Prince. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Greatest of Dragon Princes. Yeah.
So if you have any thoughts or opinions about Imrik's campaign or any of his new units, how you felt about him, starting location, problems, please leave a comment below. Or if you have any recommendations about who we should cover. We haven't totally made up our minds yet. I'm crossing my fingers for Skaven after Knights of Caledor. They've been a constant like bad guy. We've been always fighting, but yet we've never been a Skaven ourselves.
After Imrik, we're playing Tretch.
Tretch. It's all been leading up to Tretch. All roads lead to Tretch. Stick around, because after that it's Silostria. It's just circling the drain of every legendary lord that's 1 out of 10. All right, well, this has been Renowned and Feared. Please leave us a like, subscribe, and thank you very much for listening. And we hope to see you again. And stay safe out there in these dangerous times. All right. Do you mind if I go get a drink?
Not at all. I will go get one too.
All right, I'm gonna try and be back quick because I gotta start getting ready. I gotta be work at midnight my time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got a 12-hour shift coming up. Woohoo!
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah. All right. Like, yeah, a couple minutes. You back?
Yep.
Awesome. So I've been playing a little bit of Three Kingdoms Total War just on the side, just for fun.
Yeah? Is it good?
It's very different. But it's like it's a totally different Total War. But still, it kind of has that focus on heroes, I guess you could say, like generals.
Right.
Because it's got, that Romance of the Three Kingdom mode.
Yeah.
A lot more complicated diplomacy wise. It's a different change of pace, is all I have to say.
That's the one that with the diplomacy being like really solid, like it's way more fun.
Oh yeah, way more complicated, man.
Yeah.
But I just like it because I don't set it to like the highest difficulty like I've been doing now at Warhammer.
Right.
Because I would definitely lose because I still don't get it.
Right.
But it's been just a fun change of pace. Like there's different like generals that have different focuses. Like one I was playing a little bit earlier, like he's supposed to be like a governor, not really like a conqueror. So you actually get a lot of bonuses if you don't expand. Like,
okay.
Like you're, kind of like a governor. You're responsible for your territory, and the more you focus on that, the more bonuses you get, and eventually you can expand more. And but just different play styles, and I like it.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, a little historical. Like it's kind of fictional because Romance of the Three Kingdoms is like a fictionalized historical perspective that's also historical somehow. So yeah. And I used to be a big fan of Dynasty Warriors back in the day.
Yeah.
So,
right up your alley.
Yeah, I actually read the novelization of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and it's pretty long, but it was a good read in high school, I guess. When I had all the time in the world to read as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
Have you been up to anything?
No, it's gotten warmer, so climbing season is kind of in full swing here.
Oh, nice.
That's been doing that, and that's basically what my job revolves around, so that's fun.
Yeah. I'm trying really hard to I don't know, I'm praying, man. It doesn't sound like much, but a 911 operator position opened up at the sheriff's department here.
Oh yeah.
And the pay is substantially better than what I'm making now. And I'm like, if I could, I just want to be able to work 40 hours a week, man. Like,
right.
Yeah. And afford the things that we need. And it's like, I'm just like, come on, man. I need it. Yeah. Maybe I can have a life again. Because I'm honestly, I don't know when I'm going to be able to edit this and put this together. Because I'm working from midnight to noon tonight, and then I'm back again at midnight to noon. I get a crazy packed schedule, right, coming up the next couple days. So I'm gonna try and at least maybe get the editing done. If you can get a screenshot for me, that I think I've been sticking with a theme. Did you like it wasn't as popular. I don't know if it was because of Altharion. I'm kind of, maybe there's so much going on in current events, honestly, when we released Altharion. That's my excuse why we didn't do as good as the other ones.
Yeah, I think it could also be like it's 2 weeks after. Like I think the hype had kind of died down a little bit. Like everyone had kind of gotten their fill.
Yeah, that's a good point, because like Imrik is still our most popular, and
like so much. I don't get it. Like him and Noctilus are just like fucking kicking ass.
Well, I think it's because once we're done with Imrik, maybe we should move to not totally obscure, but definitely. I think I mentioned it before. Like when I didn't own Warhammer, I was looking up like Imrik and Noctilus, because I'm like, everybody's played as Luthor Harkon, everyone's played as yeah. Yeah, so like when you see it all the time, you're like, oh, another opinion.
Yeah.
But I was glad that we did these, because I'm glad I played as Cetra the Imperishable. I never would have had we not done it. Oh yeah, my point being is since Imrik, starting with your cover there, consider that going to be the standard from now on. It's going to be sort of the faction colors in that font in the bottom middle of the screen.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm going to leave the old ones up there, just to show the evolution. But I think that's it doesn't need to be a close up. It can be whatever. But I think that's the format that I'm going to go with for now.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Did you like Altharion's cover picture though? Because I was like, I mean, I took a bunch of other pictures, but that close up, man, came from a battle, the Final Quest battle. I'm
curious how you got it, but yeah, like it's.
He casted what was it? That Arcane Phoenix spell right through himself as he was fighting an Arachnarok spider. And I just zoomed in really close on his face and photoshopped it a tiny bit, just to get the shadows and stuff. But yeah, I was like, holy shit. I'm getting really artsy today.
Like, ooh.
Yeah. But I was a bit disappointed, because I was like, that's my best thumbnail yet, and it's like double work. So I was like, fuck me, whatever.
I mean, like, retention is actually a little bit better on this video than most.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it has been, at least on that one. I don't know. We just got to roll with the punches, keep doing what we're doing. I am actually going to try, since I got that vacation coming up, I want to release a 20 turn guide, or initial turn guide for Clan Pestilence on Legendary.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's a very try it on Legendary. It's so fucking hard to survive. But I think I figured it out. I've made it pretty far into it. But I want to try a couple things while I'm on vacation, like, shorter videos, maybe.
Are you just like staying home? Or are you going somewhere for your?
No, we ain't going anywhere. I don't have the money for that shit.
I mean, we might go.
Yeah, well, I have to use it in my company. My year is up in September, and if I don't use my vacation time, I lose it. So I just gotta take it, and I need to go requalify and probably take my son to the beach. Maybe we'll go out a couple times, but not doing anything super big. I mean, I live in Florida, so the beach is like an hour away.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But thanks for scheduling with me.
No, it's all good. I was thinking it actually ended up being a little bit better. Because we would have been like halfway through it if you would have got that call.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't. I'd rather stick with our Thursday night schedule, just because, like, now I gotta take a shower, get ready, and leave at 10:30 to my time to get there by midnight. So, yeah, it's a long day ahead of me. But I'm just mad that I don't get to. Usually, I use Fridays to do all the editing and releasing it and rendering, and now that's like, dude, it might take me the whole weekend to get it done, just because. So just keep an eye out for it, but don't expect it to be out right away. But I will try.
Yeah. If there's anything else I can do besides screenshots, then
send me as many screenshots as you can get.
Just get a bunch.
No, I take a lot. I take like 20, and then I pick when I came, that was like the last screenshot I took, and it just so happened for the Eltharion one. Like, I was like, that's the one.
Yeah.
Whereas the other ones that I did, like Count Noctilus and Cetra, I took probably like 20 each, and I was like going through them back and forth. So the more, the better. Anyway, all right, man. Have a good one, and thanks for doing this with me as always.
Glad it worked out.
Yeah, I'll try and get this done as soon as possible, because I like seeing those numbers and staying steady. But only so much I can do.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Talk to you later, and hit me up anytime. I'm always around.
Will do.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.